Pokimane and FedMyster are two Twitch streamers that from the outside looking in seem to have an unbreakable bond in terms of friendship, frequently appearing on each other's streams, and even living in the same house together, that being the content creator house known as Offline TV. Originally, FedMyster moved into the house to be the editor for the group, but he was so well liked by Poki and his other peers that he was promoted to a full-time content creator for the group, which is why it was such a big shock to everyone when he was suddenly completely removed from the organization in June of 2020. The reason behind this removal stems from this TwitLonger made by one of the Offline TV staff members, Yvonne. Her TwitLonger is titled My Truth. It reads out, "I want to start this off by saying, Fed was the first friend I felt like I made at Offline TV. He was very welcoming and I spent the most time with him out of everyone. We got along really well and quickly became really good friends. We would go on late night food runs and watched movies together in my room since I had a TV. He fell asleep frequently there and it became a pretty normal thing. We always stayed on our sides of the bed, and nothing ever really happened until it did. I was lying in bed with all the lights off. The door opened and Fed came in. Drunk from going out that night, he crawled into my bed and laid there for a bit. Then he grabbed my hand and held it, and I didn't move at all, cause I was shocked. He then brushed my hand against his cheek and kissed it after. I was still in a state of shock, trying to process what's happening, because this guy is supposed to be my friend. He also knew I had a boyfriend at the time. Next, he stuck his hand inside my sleeve and touched my side next to my chest. Although it wasn't exactly my chest, it was close enough to make me feel extremely uncomfortable, and I feel like that is not a place where a friend should be touching me. I still couldn't move at this point, and in my head I was just begging for him to not go any further, praying he would stop there. He did, retracted his hand, and made it seem like he was sleeping. 10 minutes later, he woke up and said, "Whoa, how'd I get here?" I asked, "Do you remember anything?" And he said no, and left my room. The next day I went up to his room, and asked if he remembered what happened last night. He said no. I told myself that if he forgot, then maybe he didn't know what he was doing, because he was drunk, and I didn't want to bring it up, because I didn't want to make it weird between us. A few weeks later, I was lying in bed again, and he came in drunk, again. He laid down next to me and told me he was sorry for what happened last time, and that he overstepped boundaries. So then I thought to myself, did he remember this whole time, and lied about it? I didn't say anything, and 10 minutes later, he did it again, minus the t-shirt part. Again, I'm scared to say anything, and he fell asleep next to me. The next day, he also acted like nothing ever happened, and I asked him at some point if he remembered anything, and he said no, again. I kept this secret to myself for a very long time. The only people I could tell were my boyfriend at the time and a close friend of mine. And out of respect for me, he didn't tell anyone. I felt like if I told anyone at Offline TV, the world would come crashing down, and that Offline TV would die/cease to exist. So I never did. I minimized it a lot, and carried on throughout my days as usual, but small things in me started changing, without me realizing it. I started avoiding Fed more. I went from hanging out with him all the time to almost never. I tunneled into League of Legends because it felt easy to be busy in a game so he couldn't talk to me or bother me. It became the easiest way to avoid him, being addicted to a game. One day, I told him what happened between us, and he said he didn't remember/know what happened. He proceeded to say he was a horrible person, and I felt bad and started comforting him. I will always remember that one of the first things he asked me after he found out was, "Did you tell anyone?" and proceeded to panic when he felt like people could know. I also told him that my boyfriend at the time, Sheen, doesn't blame him, and knows he isn't a bad person deep down, in which he responded, yeah, it's in his best interest not to? Which it wasn't, by the way. Sheen is just a super nice guy, who tried to be understanding and give him the benefit of the doubt. He said all these things, but never once did he apologize to me after learning about the situation that he forgot. Thinking back, his thought process was super messed up, because he was more worried about people finding out than how he hurt me. I minimized it so much, that I would forget at times it even happened in the first place. It was weird because there were certain times where he could trigger me, but other times, seeing him was fine. It triggered me when he'd knock on my door, barely waiting, and despite no response, he'd just come in. I remembered I tried locking my door a few times, and he gave me a hard time for doing so. Why the fuck is your door locked? Multiple times where he'd come in at night without me saying he could. Everyone else in the house always knocks and waits for a response, but not him. It also triggered me whenever he'd walk in my room, jump on my bed, and start going on his phone. But again, I minimized, and honestly felt really bad for feeling that way towards him. I kept this all to myself, mostly because I didn't want to ruin the peace. I wanted to avoid the situation, and I thought he would change after what happened with me. He didn't. He proceeded to overstep boundaries with other girls in our friend group, and each girl tried to keep it to themselves, cause they would just think, oh, it's just Fed, or he is just lonely/drunk. He even did it to Lily. She gave me permission to share this. When she was going through her hard breakup with Albert, Fed also walked into her room while she was drunk. She was lying down, and he asked if she wanted a massage. She said sure, and he started off massaging her leg, and then up her thighs. A week or so later, he was drunk and laid down next to her, and told her he liked her. She then felt uncomfortable with everything, and he asked her to not tell anyone what happened. Again, thinking back, I felt like he tried to take advantage of Lily when she was in a really vulnerable state. One night, the girls were hanging out together, and when the topic of Fed came up, we realized we all had our stories about him, whether it was him lying about certain situations to be in his favor, or lying to us about girls leading him on when he was the one who got rejected, or manipulating us to have certain ideas of people/situations. Poki especially suffered a lot from this, and I'll let her explain if she chooses to do so. The stories shared were mainly Fed overstepping boundaries, being overly touchy, in which we all thought were just Fed things. We thought it was fine because we told ourselves, that's just who he is. As we shared each other's stories, we realized it was not fine. When all the sexual harassment/abuse stories started coming out on Twitter, my coping mechanism just broke. I couldn't minimize it anymore, and I suddenly felt everything that happened crashing down on me all at once. I couldn't ignore it any longer, and I realized what happened was not okay. It couldn't be swept under the rug. I didn't want to see him, talk to him, or work with him. The pattern of problematic behavior led us to decide that we needed to have an intervention with him, to get him to realize he needs to change for the better. So we all sat down together as a group, and everyone started sharing with Fed how he once hurt them. It was extremely emotional, with a lot of crying, and at the end of it, he seemed very apologetic, and understanding what he had done wrong. This was the first time he apologized to me about everything, and it did feel really nice to hear. I genuinely felt super happy that it seemed like Fed was very accepting of everything and willing to be better. I wasn't planning on releasing any statement from my end, but unfortunately, his behavior since then made me feel like he wasn't really sorry. His actions and words showed he was still avoiding responsibility, that his priority was still himself and his career, versus being a better person and resolving the hurt he caused us. My intention for the statement is not to destroy him, but to warn other girls about his behavior, how he pushes boundaries using alcohol as an excuse for his action. He needs to be held accountable for his actions, learn from his mistakes, and not avoid them like how he was trying to again this time around. I don't think Fed is a bad person, but we all made excuses for his behavior for a long time now, because we truly loved him as a friend, even despite all this. Ultimately, what I'd want in the end would be to see him taking steps towards getting help, and striving to be a better person. A few things I would like people to keep in mind. Everyone in offline TV helped me immensely throughout all this. They went through great measures to make sure I was okay, and that I would be okay in the future as well. When they learned of this, they never asked me to be silent. In fact, they tried their best to stand up for me, and speak for me when I didn't know how to approach this. They made me feel comfortable, and empowered to speak my truth, because I would have felt too scared otherwise. It may not be possible, but I would like it if people could refrain from shitting on offline TV/negative comment. I would appreciate that a lot, because everyone there helped me the most throughout this entire thing. It would really hurt to read awful comments towards the people I tried so hard to protect. Lastly, please remember that Fed is human, and refrain from extremely hurtful comments that I know he's going to receive. Words can have a very scary impact, and again, I want to emphasize my intention with this statement is not to destroy him. I just felt a strong need to speak my truth, and put a warning out there to other women until he does get better. I don't believe he's a bad person deep down. He is someone that even to this day I can't help but care about, and things would honestly be a lot better if I didn't. Wow, that was a pretty hefty statement from Yvonne. Pokimane shows her support by sending a heart emoji. The Offline TV Twitter account quote tweets Yvonne and says, "We strive to be a place where everyone can feel comfortable and safe. With that in mind, Fed has been removed from Offline TV. He will also no longer be living with us. We wholeheartedly support Yvonne, her statement, and anyone else who has the courage to share their story." Valkyrie responds to this by saying, "Sending all my love to each and every one of you." Fed commented on this whole situation by saying, "I want to start off this statement by apologizing for my absence the past few days. Earlier this week, some of my friends sat me down and expressed that I had on several occasions made them feel uncomfortable or uneasy. In light of recent events, this pained me greatly as it was not and has never been my intention to hurt those closest to me. I fully understand the importance of having their voices heard, and I believe I should take a step back, give them space, and listen to their story. I've made it a point this year to be better, and as I often mention, I'm trying to take more responsibility in my life. I owe it to both my friends and everyone who supports me to own up to my actions, and that starts by listening to those I've hurt. I want to make it clear that my intentions were never to act maliciously or predatorily. I am flawed. I have issues that impede my friendships, issues with myself, but I am not a predator, and I never wanted this to happen." Endless Overtime responds to Fed by saying, "Fed, I know you are a good person. I'm both shocked and disappointed that this happened. I hope that leaving Offline TV and taking time off will help you grow as a person. Stay real, Fed." LS responds to him by saying, "What the fuck do you mean, I know you're a good person? You don't fucking know him at all. That's the whole point. You know an idea that is presented to you via the form of clips, stream persona, and other things. This is one of the many parts of the whole movement. People aren't who you think." Yuli comments on all of this by tweeting out, "I am genuinely confused why some of the stories I have read over the past few days are on social media not being handled privately. When did shitty attempts at flirting and getting laid turn into sexual harassment or even rape? Why do names have to be named? If somebody wants to raise awareness or simply share their story, wouldn't it be better to do that without starting a witch hunt? I know this is an issue with many layers, and I am honestly just trying to understand. Please educate me." Shock's responds to her by saying, "I think this is a brave stance to take. Since it is a very nuanced topic, Yuli, I have done a lot of soul searching as well about what I consider acceptable, etc. But what I found helpful is the consideration that what's acceptable to me may not be acceptable for another person." Yuli responds, "I absolutely agree with you. However, I am having a hard time understanding why these boundaries are not being set in a dialogue on a person-to-person basis." Emily responds to Yuli's tweet by saying, "I think it's good that serious incidents are made public. It raises awareness about how many victims and abusers there are. However, I think it's some of the stories that are just shitty compliments, bad attempts at flirting, etc. takes away the point of many of the serious cases." Yvonne responds to her by saying, "I also got a lot of comments about how it was a bad attempt at flirting. Yeah, I guess when I flirt, I also stick my hand inside their shirt." Emily responds to her by saying, "Sorry to hear. It's hard to draw a line between bad attempt at flirting and sexual assault. However, what can seem as something innocent to some people can obviously be completely different for the person assaulted, and everyone has the right to feel what they feel." Pokimane responds to Yuli's tweet by saying, "If someone isn't listening privately, and you are aware of their power, influence, plus likelihood to continue behaving inappropriately towards other women in the future, it gets to a point where it can be important to put out a public warning." In addition to this response, Pokimane also made a statement on her Twitch channel about the whole Fed situation and her personal involvement in it. The whole clip is about 50 minutes long, so obviously I won't be showing all of it here, but if you want to see the full thing instead, it will be linked in the description below. Either way, this is what she said.
"Me and Fed would have many issues. One of the more prominent ones revolved around an incident where we threw a house party, and he knew that there was someone coming to the house party that I was really looking forward to seeing and getting to know. And when that guy came to the house party, Fed kind of stuck to him like glue all night. Later that night, after the party ended, I texted this guy and I was like, oh, kind of sucks, like we didn't get to hang out. And he was like, yeah, you seemed really busy. And I was like, me busy? Like you and Fed were, two peas in a pod all night. And he goes, oh yeah, like what's going on with you guys? And I was like, what do you mean what's going on? And the guy informed me that Fed told him that we were together when we weren't, and that He told the guy not to tell anyone, not to talk to anyone about it, not to talk to me about it. That was the first time that Fed just like massively broke my trust, and I could never trust him or look at him the same way. I retroactively asked someone else from kind of the past whether Fed had said something similar to him, and they did. And I very recently, just today, found out that he said the same thing to another guy. And the guy I found out about today was someone else that like I was seeing or wanting to get to know. To a fault, I'm a very confrontational person, so I confronted Fed about this, and he admitted he did it, he admitted it was wrong, and that he fucked up. This was not the first or last time that Fed would lie to me. So I had a lot of trust issues with him, not to say that I'm a perfect person by any means. So yeah, I'm quite the confrontational person, and I would often confront him about things I felt he did wrong, but he would only sometimes acknowledge his mistakes. But more often than not, he would ignore me, and now I find out oftentimes ran around to others, making me sound crazy. I want to share something that the Just Friends girls wanted me to share on their behalf. At the Just Friends house, he would come over anytime things were off or tense at the offline TV house and just like be in their rooms, never knocking, just there, which they came to accept as just Fed things. While he was there, he would always imply things were bad between me and him, push false narratives that make him look good and make me look really bad. Later, when the Yvonne incident happened, and when they did not know that this happened, he would come over to their house and tell them things like, Yvonne is taking up a content creator spot in our house. She does literally nothing but play League. And talk about how much he wanted her out of the house. He would constantly talk shit about girls he would show fleeting interest in and then tarnish their reputation. They could tell girls felt scared of being on bad terms with him and offline TV, and the girls felt like that was a bit of an abuse of power. He essentially knew that he was protected by the offline TV. Back to my perspective, that was their part. All us girls got together just to chat, and it was crazy to see that just about every girl had a Fed story. We all realized we brushed off our negative experiences in order to not disturb the social circle, to avoid issues, and because we figured they were just slip-ups. This was the moment we truly realized how big of a problem his behavior was, and that ultimately we needed to plan an intervention of sorts. So this talk with all the girls, along with everything that was shared during the intervention, helped us piece together and realize that he would lie about me a lot, create narratives in his favor, and insinuate a lot of negative things which drove everyone around me away from me. It's just baffling that I find this out just now, basically. Even Scar told me that he thought I was crazy, either because of the issues that I said I had with Fed back in the day, or via the things Fed would say about me. And that same sentiment has been echoed by a lot of my other friends after the recent intervention and the recent talks. There's been multiple instances of Fed pursuing a girl in the scene, suddenly losing interest, and then bad-mouthing that girl to us, giving us a negative impression of that girl. We would later find out from these girls that he made unwanted advances on them. While there's nothing wrong with shooting your shot, the way he does it and the way he acts after he gets rejected is really problematic because it damages the girl's reputation and hurts their character. As people within offline TV, if we all think badly of someone and our friends also think badly of someone, that can be really impactful on someone's career in esports or on Twitch. We had multiple girls tell us how they were afraid that offline TV hated them. I had to have a very serious talk with Yvonne about a potential new hire for offline TV because we were worried how Fed would act with a girl working under him. And I just don't think that it is normal for a company to have to worry about a female hire being taken advantage of. And that power dynamic that would have happened if we hired a girl genuinely concerned me. And this was prior to me knowing a lot of the stuff that I know now. Toast also sat down with Fed a year ago. At this point, Toast was the only one from OTV who was aware of the incident with Yvonne and Fed, and he warned Fed about the growing concern within our friend group in regards to his behavior around girls. Fed responded by getting angry at Toast and claimed to not have remembered the incident with Yvonne, and he seemed more concerned with who else knew about the incident and about anything else, and who had said what about him. I want to put a huge emphasis on this. The way he shit-talked Yvonne and Lily to me and others, particularly, I will just recount my experience, is so frustrating knowing what happened between them. The Yvonne incident happened, and Fed would start talking to me. I'm so sorry for being emotional. He would talk to me about how Yvonne was lazy and not working enough and playing League all the time. And I was concerned. And he would say, oh, she won't work on OTV stuff with me or brainstorm and blah, blah, blah. And this discussion got to the point of us almost letting Yvonne go from the company because we thought she just wasn't interested enough in working with us. When in reality, her behavior was entirely because of the incident that happened between them two. And so it just blows my mind that he would try to manipulate the narrative in that way. And kind of aggressively, if that makes sense. He was really not wanting her there anymore. As for Lily, after the incident with her and him, and after he tried to get with her basically, when she was really vulnerable and heartbroken and in probably the worst mental state I've ever seen her after her breakup with Albert, after he tried to get with her in that state, he started complaining to me about how Lily and Michael were hanging out a lot and excluding him, and how he felt lonely, and how he felt like Lily ditched him as a friend. And I genuinely felt so bad for Fed. Again, mind you, he's been the closest person to me in the house for a long time. And even after our friendship became kind of stale, I just wasn't that much closer with anyone else. So he would tell me all this stuff, and I felt so bad for him. I was like, oh, they must not realize that they're excluding him and he feels bad. And yeah, and I talked to Lily and I was like, hey, maybe spend a bit of time with Fed, he's lonely and stuff. And I was trying to help everyone. And I didn't know at the time, probably the reason Lily wasn't spending much time with him is because he tried to come on to her when she was sad as shit. I genuinely had no idea, and he warped my perception to be against these people. And so I know exactly how all of my friends were against me. I can't even imagine the way he warped their perception against me. I see a lot of people excusing Fed's behavior by blaming alcohol or blaming Yvonne and Lily for freezing up and not saying no. It makes me really worried that with people minimizing his behavior, plus diehard fans that are seemingly ready to support him at any moment, I can just imagine him coming back within 2 months, saying that he's been sober for a few weeks, and thinking he's a different or changed person. But I feel it's really important right now to do this because I still see people excusing his behavior, acting like they know him, and trying to minimize what happened to Yvonne and Lily without seeing the bigger picture. If you're upset about us sharing these things publicly, understand that we just felt like we couldn't enable his behavior anymore, that we tried to address it and we saw no change. This was an incredibly difficult decision to come to. It was not our first resort by any means, and initially, Yvonne wasn't even going to come out with a statement at all. During the intervention, he was surprisingly apologetic. We were borderline impressed at how apologetic he seemed. His words were the things that we wanted to hear. However, after the intervention, via his actions and his words to other people, it was made very clear to us that his priorities did not lie with his victims, but with his public image. His priority was not to make things better or to be a better person, but instead it felt like it was to salvage his career and figure out his next move. Within a day or two after the intervention, he was already running to our mutual friends and trying to seem like the victim in this situation for being let go from OTV.
That's about it from Pokimane. There's also video statements I'm going to share from Skara, the founder of Offline TV, and Yasuo, FedMyster's former best friend. But before we go into those statements, I'd like to show something that's a bit more contrasting to what we just listened to. And of course, the person to give that contrasting statement is Keemstar. He tweets out this Twitter video with the caption, "I'm mad."
I'm going to have a little bit of a rant, and I haven't researched everything, so I don't have all the details. So maybe there's something extra to this story that I just don't know about, right? But I just read a Me Too movement, or Me Too statement about these gamers. They live in a gamer house. One's a guy, one's a girl. The guy's drunk. He jumps into her bed. He's like putting his hand up against her chin. He like grabs her hand, kisses it. He grazes his hand across her chest. And the girl says, "I was so shocked by all these three things that I just didn't even react. I just was froze. I didn't say anything." It's your responsibility to say something. If a guy's making a moves on you and you don't want that to happen, you got to say no. Like that's your responsibility. You have to say no. You can't just not do anything and then be like, "He wronged me." What? You gotta say no. You have to say no. And what are we talking about? This? We're talking about kissing a hand? That's what we're talking about? Now, if you would have said to him, "Get away from me," and he still grabbed your hand and kissed it, fine. But when you say nothing, no like, "Hey, you're crossing the line. Hey, too much," and he just kisses your hand, why didn't you pull your hand away? Like, I don't get it. Maybe there's more details out there that I just don't know about, right? Maybe there's more stories out there about this individual. Maybe he is a creep, right? But based on what I just read, and I didn't even read the full thing because I couldn't get through it because I was so angry that this person's getting Me Too'd for kissing a girl's hand. You, the female, have a responsibility to say, "No, stop. I don't like this. Get away." No, you have that responsibility. I don't have all the details, but if this whole man's career is completely finished and ruined from kissing a girl's hand, I think your career should be ruined too. Because that's not right. It's not right. It's not right. That's not right. It's not sexual abuse. It's not rape. It's just not right. If he crossed the line, you need to tell him right away, "You're crossing the line." And if he doesn't back off, then expose.
He continues to talk about this by saying, "Based on these responses from Twitter, stand corrected. Kissing a girl's hand is sexual harassment, borderline rape. Even if the girl gives no verbal or physical signs that she's uncomfortable, that the man is crossing boundaries, it's still rape. I am smarter now. Thanks, Twitter. Gaming entertainers will have to get written contracts with females in the future before they even start flirting. That's the only way to resolve this problem." TwizFizz responds to Keemstar's comments by saying, "I don't know, maybe guys shouldn't jump into girls' beds and start harassing them?" She then makes a tweet of her own to elaborate on this where she says, "It's sad that nearly every girl I've known has a story of sexual harassment. It's sadder that a minority of girls are using #MeToo movement just for clout. It's sadder still how many guys are hyper-focused on this minority instead of the actual issue at hand. Just tired of seeing peers on my timeline stating this is a reason they won't befriend women. Kinda sounds like you'd only befriend girls you'd want to fuck." Ovally May comments on this entire situation by saying, "These are my unorganized, unfiltered thoughts. Sorry if I'm just too upset to craft something better right now. Please support the women who have come out with their stories. I'm sure there are still more to come."
Couldn't get my thoughts out onto text, so I'm going to try it in video. It's unorganized. Sorry. You just had the sweetest person in the entire freaking world come out and share her most traumatic and vulnerable experiences with you. Not only you, but with millions of other people who have access to the internet. This is stuff that she may not have told anyone. She may have kept it to herself for years. She may have been living with the disgusting feeling inside herself or trying to lie to herself and tell her, forget that it ever happened. If after reading that, you come out and respond to it by trying to invalidate her trauma, invalidate her experience, by asking, why didn't you come out and say something sooner? Or why didn't you say something in that moment? You're part of the fucking problem. It is not that simple. When you have someone who is overpowering you, on top of you, next to you, pressuring you, you're incapacitated, that is not always an option. Especially for a girl. There is always a fear, whether it's in terms of power of strength or just terms of power of fucking, I don't know, employment or some shit like that. That is not always an option. And the fact that she was still able to come out years later and finally share her story after finding the strength, after finding the courage to speak her truth, to try to help other women out there and make sure that nothing of this sort happens to them from this individual ever again. You're incredibly insensitive to try to invalidate that. Don't be on the bad guy's side. Be on the good guy's side. The bad guys are out there saying, well, was she drunk too? Oh, well then I guess it's okay. Oh, it's just regret. It's not fucking regret. It's abuse. It's assault. Be on the good guy's side. Support these women who are coming out and sharing their stories. Fuck, man, I don't even know where else. I don't even know what else.
Now, with those opinions being heard, let's hear what Skara, the founder of Offline TV, had to say about all of this.
I will say, in general, it is not just an alcohol problem that made him do what he did. He ends up always kind of manipulating the truth to make himself look better in a lot of different ways, in ways that you don't really need to. You know, if your friend group, if you're like friends with someone, like I always trust Fed and whatever he says about anyone. It came back to a situation where I found out that it wasn't always the truth. We came out with the statement because after we had a 3-hour intervention with him and 7 other girls, and 6 of the girls all came out with stuff against him, he proceeded after that day to contact the people who weren't there and kind of do exactly what we told him was the problem, which was to tell them only his side of the story and kind of spin it in a way where he ended up being the better person. But it's like, I don't think that's like, we just had an intervention about it, so it felt kind of weird. I hope that you don't end up kind of flaming Yvonne or Lily or Poki for coming out, or Fed. Honestly, even after all we've been through, he has done a lot of good for us and Offline TV, as well as I still deep down think he is a good person, but he has a very flawed mindset with how to approach situations. The thing I wanted to focus on is I saw a lot of comments about Offline, and just in general, I feel like as someone who is kind of the head of Offline, although to be honest, the way Offline generally works, I don't want to delve into the specifics, but it's like a combination of all the core members, and many of the core members take up responsibilities of what they're comfortable with and what they end up doing. I would say like Fed was always the content ideation, plus him and Lily help control like kind of the emotional aspect of the group. Me, Toast, and Poki always controlled kind of the more business aspect, kind of more logical things that would occur on either day by day, and Yvonne would help facilitate like the entire spectrum across the board. And that's how we've operated for a while. Recently, because of Fed exploding on his stream, like literally like top 2 streamer in his section, top 1 marble streamer ever. He invented a category pretty much. Ever since that happened a couple months ago, he was our content lead and our ideation person for all of our YouTube videos. And he stopped being very effective at it because obviously balancing 2 things at once is a problem. And in the past, it was a problem to the point where he had to quit streaming. So it came back, and obviously we don't want him to give up his success. It is incredibly stupid for him to go back to being just our guy working our videos. So we ended up looking for another person to help us full time. And we brought him in about kind of a couple weeks ago. I know a lot of people are worried about like Fed's disappearance means that Offline ends up dying. I will not argue that Fed was a core member of Offline and hard carried Offline, especially during our 2019 arc. What season is that? Season 2? But I will say every single member of Offline is important. But every person Offline kind of contributes in their own way, I would say. And I don't really want to downplay other people by saying just Fed ended up being the reason why we're successful. When realistically, like without all the people that we had, Offline would never get off the ground. When people ask me like the secret to success for Offline, I always tell them it's the people. And I don't think they really understand, because businesses come up to us and they're just like, how do you do it? And we're like, it's the people. And now I could say it's the people, you know, luck, the people, and trauma. So that's actually the The fucking chemical X.
Now that we've heard what Skara had to say, let's take a look at what streamer Yasuo had to say about this. Someone who was best friends with FedMyster up until only a few days ago.
So pretty much, I knew about shit a little earlier than you guys. The reason I knew about stuff, about a week ago, I want to say, like 4 days ago, 5 days ago, Fed called me. He called me on the phone and he was like, yo, pretty much, I'm getting kicked from offline. He's like, yeah, pretty much we had an intervention, and they talked to me about how, like, I made them uncomfortable, and, like, you know, there was this one instance where I got drunk, and then, like, I touched Yvonne's shirt with my nose, and, like, I put my hand on, like, her side, and then, like, yeah, that's pretty much it, and then I was an idiot, and I forgot about it, and I lied. He didn't tell me about the Lily situation. He told me a little bit about Poki. He told me a little bit about the situation with him and Yvonne. He pretty much didn't tell me shit. I'm gonna be real. And in case you guys don't know, by the way, Fed's, like, supposedly one of my best friends. So he pretty much really didn't tell me much. He downplayed the situation to me a lot. Like, my instant reaction when one of my closest friends is telling me that, I was like, yo, what the fuck? Offline TV's overreacting, bro. Like, that's fucked up. That's not cool. It was supposed to be a private matter. They weren't going to go public with anything. Everything was going to be private. And the reason it went public instead of private was because Fed did this shit he did to me. He did to multiple people. And he pretty much went to people and downplayed the situation to all, like, our friends, and acted like he made it seem like he did less than he actually did, and made it seem like he's a better person than he really was, because the shit he did is unforgivable and it is fucked up. At this point, once the thing came out, I text Fed and I say, yo, if you want to talk, hit me up whenever, bro. I'm here for you. This is when the statements went live. And he's like, I appreciate it. It's going to be a rough couple days. And I said, for sure, it won't be easy, but this is the worst of it, and we're going to get past it. I talked to Toast. I talked to Celine. I talked to Yvonne. I talked to Poki. I talked to literally everyone in the situation. I talked to Don Moore. I talked to Ibram. I talked to everyone involved. And what I realized is that Fed literally told me probably 5 or 10% of the situation. Even the stuff that's public right now that you guys think you know about Fed, you guys don't know even the fucking half of it. You don't know a fourth of the situation. He's done so much more fucked up shit than you can even, like, actually think about. Like, some shit, like, he's done to me, he's done to Dom, he's done to other people. Pretty much he used a bunch of shit that we told us against him. I don't want to get into the specifics because I don't want to leak more stuff, or I don't want to even involve myself in the drama. I just want to tell you guys that the shit he did is unforgivable. And it's shit that, like, to me, you guys saw how much I messaged him and how much I was trying to be a good friend for him. He did shit that I can't forgive. I can never forgive it. I haven't even messaged him about it yet, but I can never forgive him for the shit he did. Take my word for it. It wasn't just a situation where he did fucked up shit to the girls, like Yvonne or Lily. One, he did fucked up shit to almost every girl in that group, whether it was manipulation, lying, sexual harassment, whatever it was. He pretty much did something wrong to every single girl. But not only that, he literally committed the ultimate bro sin to me and others. Like, I don't know if other people are going to talk about their experiences. They can. I'm going to keep mine private. To me, the most fucked up part is when he called me and explained the situation to me and downplayed the situation. He didn't apologize about, like, anything really to me. He pretty much, he downplayed it to me and acted like nothing happened. And the thing is, to me, is when shit hits the fucking fan for him, and all of offline pretty much is already kicking him and know the shit's fucked up and, like, he's not going to live in the house. The fact that he couldn't come out and tell me the whole truth or tell me that he's wronged me in the past as if I wouldn't find out is even more fucked up. Like, I literally cannot believe it, because over the past 3 years, in case you guys don't know, this is a guy that I've literally been one of my best friends. I literally lived with him for over a month. I stayed with him. I went to fucking parties. I went to events. I went everywhere with him. We were literally stuck to each other like fucking glue at events. I was always talking about girls. He's always talking to me about girls. I literally told him, like, pretty much, there was a time where, remember, I was going through my depression and my anxiety shit, like last year, late 2019. Literally, I talked to 2 people the most about it. I talked to Ibrahim, my roommate, who's, like, literally my best friend. And then I also talked to Fed about it. Those are the only 2 people that I talked to about it. So that should show you how much I trusted him, pretty much. But the stuff that I told him while I was depressed and anxious, and, like, him helping me, the fact that he used the shit I told him against me, and did shit that, like, made me more sad. I didn't know at the time, obviously, but I found out now that, like, he did more fucked up shit than you can imagine. Like, it's something unforgivable. You can't go back and like, forgive that. You can cry if you want. I'm not gonna cry, don't worry. The extent of all the stuff he did, unless he takes over a year off to go to therapy, to go to a psychiatrist, to dive fucking deeper, learn about Buddhism, until he does, like, literally all, he is not remorseful. And I am telling you that. I am telling you that because I literally thought of him as a brother before. I still think, in general, he's done a lot of good. I think he was a great friend from what I knew. But all this behind the scenes shit and all the manipulation and all the lying and all the fucking hiding of the truth he did is unforgivable. Yvonne, Lily, Poki, they all were nice about the situation too. People are giving them hate right now online to like all of them, like, hey, why'd you cancel Fed? This is fucked up. It should have been a private matter. Why? No, it should not have been. He's literally a public figure. People think of him as this fucking idol. If people didn't know about this and it was fucking private, trust me, he would have been back to streaming next week. He would have acted like nothing happened and he probably would have still done this shit to other people. This is shit that's literally, like, it's deeper than streaming. It had to be public. I'll read Fed's statement just to show you guys, like, why I'm so disappointed nowadays. Is because all that he really says is, like, I'm sorry for not being here. I'm not a predator. I didn't want to be a predator. It's not about being a fucking predator. The shit he did is unforgivable. The shit he did to me, he wasn't, well, actually, in a way, kind of was a predator. But the shit he did, it wasn't about just assault. It wasn't just about sexual harassment. It was about him just being a fucked up person and lying to everyone close around him, manipulating everyone close around him, taking what he hears from a private conversation, for example, between me and him, and using that against me to make like whatever I said seem more invalid to the person he's talking to and making him seem better in that position. That's the problem. And he deserves to be in his position, but he's going to be okay on his own, mental and mentally wise. I don't know, and I don't think it's any of my business at this point. I think after the shit I found out and the shit like that he's done, I don't think I want to be a part of his life. So Mo, you're saying if he told you the whole truth, you'd stay friends with him? No. No. Even if Fed came to me like 3 days ago and told me literally every single thing, there's no way I could be friends with the guy.
Now, beyond Pokimane, FedMyster, and Skara, a lot of streamers came out and made statements on Fed. Angel's Kimmy made a 34-minute one, Fuslie made a 55-minute one, and Yvonne went more in depth on her stream in a 27-minute segment. I could try and cut up and show all of them, but honestly would be here all night. So instead, let's fast forward 5 months later to when FedMyster decided to respond to all of these allegations more in depth in a 25-page Google document, explaining his perspective on everything going on. Majority of the document being spent debunking everything Pokimane said about him. This got so bad that even Pokimane had to respond in a full live stream, which made her look even worse in a lot of people's eyes. But without further ado, let's begin. It starts off with FedMyster saying, "Introduction and apology. Hey guys, it's been a while. It's been about 2 months now. I know a lot of you are angry, sad, and disappointed, and you certainly have the right to be. I did some shitty things and they went unchecked for a long time. After some very low moments, I'm in a better place now. I've been seeing a really good therapist nearly twice a week, and as per his suggestion, taking time away from all social media. I've used this time to distance myself and reflect. Although this time I've been staying completely sober and plan to continue to do so. Just in general though, I am really trying to improve myself as a person, and I honestly feel like I've already made progress. But I know it is not my place to be the judge. I'm taking this all very seriously. Throughout the entirety of my absence, I've been doing therapy addressing everything that happened. Over the course of that time, I learned a lot about myself and my hidden issues. To summarize, I am very fearful of confrontation, and mostly the unknown. I'd often make a mistake and choose to suppress it rather than confront it. This can cause me to hide things and hurt a lot of people in the process. The thing is, life is full of unknowns, and I can't play as a bystander when it comes to the consequences of my actions. I need to increase my comfortability with the unknown. Another thing I learned more about is my desire for intimacy, not sexual, more like companionship. When I get comfortable with people, I often push these boundaries, and then when I'm drunk, this feeling is amplified. I never mean any harm or any sort of malicious intent, but I have certainly made people feel uncomfortable. My actions surrounding Yvonne and Lily fit into those categories, and I can't begin to explain how sorry I am for hurting them, and ultimately jeopardizing our relationships. The consequences of my actions towards them have been miserable, but appropriate. Every day I wake up and recall how nice it was being surrounded by loving friends, and how stupid I was to let my actions betray their trust. I deserved it though. These actions had to have consequences. I just want to say first, that this has nothing to do with me coming back to streaming. After a tremendous amount of thought and therapy, I'm here to shed some light and give a timeline on my side of things, since it has now become a public matter. I have already apologized to Yvonne and Lily privately, and this statement will in no way contradict their stories. Instead, the purpose is to address the individuals that I believe are twisting the truth to their own benefit. For my own health, I can no longer stay silent, and as you may guess from the omission of her name previously, he is indeed talking about Pokimane twisting the truth to her own benefit. The purpose. After my time away from everything, I decided to watch the streams that were made about me. Watching Poki talk about all the things I've done with little to no context as to the nature of our relationship hurt me pretty bad. I definitely did some questionable things and broke her trust. But there are some claims she makes about me, Yvonne and I, just friends, and herself that are either false, twisting the truth, or misconstrued. I'm going to be addressing these claims as well as giving context to mostly everything that was mentioned on her stream, since I feel that is very important and personal to me. My relationship with Poki. This Foki thing all started as a joke. When I made a picture of Poki and me my phone background, she had sarcastically suggested that I do it, and see what kind of reaction from the community we'd get. I laughed and did it anyway just for fun. Obviously the public started picking up on it more and more, and then this all escalated when the Taiwan trip happened. During the Taiwan trip, February 14th, 2018, Poki and I got really close. A lot of good moments came from that trip. It felt like the honeymoon phase of getting to know someone, and that's what it was. This was the first time we talked and looked at each other differently. We discussed some pretty personal things like work ethic, drive, and dreams. It was really cool. And then on stream we would do our thing. We weren't at all playing it up for content. At least I wasn't. We came back from Taiwan and that kind of energy between us continued on/off stream. We started to have breakfast/dinner together every day. We became very flirty, especially through text. He then shows DMs between him and Pokimane. It starts out with Poki saying, "Okay, I'll look. I changed your name in my phone to Fedi." Fed then shows that he renamed her to Foki in his phone, and comments on that by saying, "Bible thomp." Poki responds, "I want Foki Ice, or Fedi Ice, or just Fedi." Fed responds, "Yeah, Foki Ice." Poki then shows a screenshot of Fed in her phone being called Foki Ice. So each of them have the fire element, a different part of their fan art together as you can see, and it's both called Foki, a little couple thing, I guess. In another set of DMs from March 2nd, 2018, FedMyster says to Poki, "Good morning," to which she responds, "Best pick ever." Fed responds with a heart. These next set of texts are between Pokimane and someone called Hanaku. Hanaku starts out by saying, "Oh my god, you're into it. You're feeling it." Poki responds with a shrug emoji, to which she responds, "Poki, your eyes." Poki responds, "Lol, stop." To which she responds, "Glittery. And you effing looking at him like in adoration." Poki responds with dots, and then she responds, "Nani?" The next set of DMs are from March 2nd, 2018, and they're between Poki and Fed again. It starts out with Poki saying, "I saw what you wrote in chat. Made me blushy." Fed responds, heart emoji, "Hungry?" The next set of DMs are from March 12th, 2018, and it starts out with FedMyster saying, "Good night." Pokimane responds, "Nice. I'm still embarrassed, by the way. Decided I'll never close my door ever again, if you know what I mean." Fed responds, So you're saying I could just walk in right now?" Poki responds, "I hear you. I think you know what I mean then, hehe." Fed responds, "I think I might have to come in so you can elaborate." Poki responds, "Or what I'm talking about, zipped mouth." Never mind. Haha, if you must." Fed responds, "Literally locked." Poki responds, "Oops." FedMyster responds, "Jebaited." Poki responds, "That's unfortunate. Hahaha. I feel like I can sense your frustration. Check again." In another set of DMs, Fed says, "Good night. So quiet over there." Poki responds, "Lol, I got lost in thought. Can you legit hear everything?" Fed responds, "Ah." To which Poki responds, "Oh my god." Fed then says, "Lost in thought?" Poki responds, Yeah. Haven't started, taking care of myself, you know." Fed responds, "I will commence shortly," with a smiling face and 2 fingers emoji. Poki responds, "Fingers? More like fist." Fed responds, "Lol," to which Poki responds with a tongue emoji. Fed then responds with a sweating emoji, and Pokimane responds, "Ha, have fun." Fed responds, "You too." I'm sorry to all the Pokimane simps out there. I know that was a very traumatic reading for you. Either way, moving on with the document, Fed also mentions how they had occasional sleepovers, and that is also accompanied by some screenshots of text. This one is from March 6th, 2018, and it starts out with Pokimane saying, "I tried to wait for you, but I have an interview at 11 AM, so I gotta go to sleep soon. We watch another time. Rip hummus." Fed responds, "Wanna watch one right now real quick?" "Sorry, I promised Lily I'll play a little Fortnite." Poki responds, "It's okay. I don't want to interrupt." FedMyster responds with a frowning face, to which Poki responds, "FML, fuck you, Timmy. Sorry she woke you. I just woke up. I'm too hot. Gonna sleep in my room." Fed responds, "Was gonna ask if I could come with, but is okay. Good night. Sorry." Pokimane responds, "Night. You can come with next time." Fed responds, "Okay." Continuing on with the document, Fed says, just in general, we're definitely heading in a romantic direction. It was pretty obvious to our friends and roommates something was going on, but no one really asked about it. There was the occasional ex-roommate walking in without knocking and seeing us cuddling in bed, watching Law & Order on my laptop. I would think to myself, man, this is the dream. Really connecting with someone that understands the world I'm a part of. And she's super ambitious, hilarious, and meticulous about so many things in her life. She's a very inspiring person. To this day, and despite everything, I still hold true to those beliefs. So I tried everything in my power to not fuck it up. Spoiler, I did. The texts shown throughout are obviously just small glimpses into our relationship, only chosen to show specific context that was never given. Of course, the majority of interactions were in person, and a lot were FaceTime. In March 2018, we had an honest discussion about the direction we were heading, and she brought up some notable problems. A, that we live together, and could be a problem if things don't work out. 2, we are board members / own equity of the company that we work for. This could be a conflict of interest and could get nasty if things don't work out between us. It was perfectly legal, but it's more of something that could be a future problem. The conclusion we came to was to slow down and not spend as much time together, because things were escalating very fast. And if we're going to say, fuck it, let's just date, we needed to be sure. Not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed, but agreed that we definitely spent way too much time together. And it's a little dangerous, especially for something that could cause major future issues. Well, things changed for maybe a couple days, but then we started talking again, except things were slightly toned down. April/May 2018, pretty much the same as March, except she was traveling a lot. We texted and FaceTimed a lot. She would send messages like, I miss you, and refer to me as honey bun, or randomly call me cute, and we would still have sleepovers. That last sentence was clickable, and it links to text where Pokimane starts by saying, thanks for always taking care of me, by the way. Fed responds, yeah, apparently he was gonna IRL and chill at McDonald's overnight, then got on his flight. He's too troll, and I always will. What time is your flight? Poki responds, in 25 minutes. Fed responds, sorry if I'm super extra, just really love making you feel good/happy. Poki then responds with a disappointed face and says, why do you like that? Fed responds, I just do. You are often stressing about things, and even if you aren't, I love helping you in any way I can, because I know it puts less weight on you. It just feels right. Poki responds, heart. Thanks, Fed. I'm lucky to have you in my life. I hope I can help you as well. We're taking off. Talk to you later. Fed responds, have a nice flight, okay? Don't sleep on some random shoulder. Drink water. These next set of DMs are from May 4th, 2018, and it starts out with Pokimane saying, Fed. He responds, yes. She says, Fed. He responds, yes. She says, you cute. Fed says, no you, and then she sends a smiling face. We have some more DMs from April 19th, 2018. Fed sends a heart emoji. Poki responds with a heart. She then asks Fed to respond. Fed responds, I'm here, heart emoji. We made it. These DMs start out with Fed saying, hope your flight is going well. Miss you. Phone died, lol, on my laptop. Poki responds, aw, honey bun. I'll miss you too, Feddy. I'll be back soon, don't worry. In this one, Fed says, you have your passport? To which Poki responds, yeah. Do you miss me already? Oh. Fed responds, yes. Poki then responds with a hugging and 3 heart emojis. In these sets of texts, Fed starts out by saying, honey wants to sleep over. That cool with you? Poki responds, sorry, but not tonight. Tomorrow's a big day. As much as I want to sleep over with both honeys. FedMyster responds, wah. To which Poki responds with a heart emoji. Continuing on with the document, Fed says, like we're obviously acting coupley here, and whenever we're apart, we FaceTime. I super felt like we were disregarding the conversation we had in March, and kinda just going with the flow. Obviously, I'm excited about this because at this time, I liked her enough that I want to try and be serious/exclusive. So EDC 2018, it's a large music festival in May, came around, and I was roommates with Josh. This isn't his name, but for anonymity, I'll just call him Josh, at our Airbnb. Of course, it was pretty obvious to him I was texting Poki a lot, as well as FaceTiming her. He hadn't said a single thing about it yet, and it certainly already looked like something might have been going on to him. At some point, he asked me about us, and I said, there's something going on, yeah. And he didn't believe it, I think. So I asked our manager. Me, Poki, Josh all shared the same manager at the time, and she was well aware of how close me and Poki were. This citation is accompanied by some more texts. This one is of Poki sending her conversation she had with Hanaku earlier to Fed and saying, I need our manager to stop. Anyways, continuing on with the document, Fed says, I asked her, you know about me and Poki, right? And she confirmed it. She was also at the EDC house with us. So in my mind, I felt I was being honest, but it was one of my first major mistakes. Poki is a very private person, especially with relationship stuff. And I definitely crossed the line here. My answer was ambiguous enough that it implied that we were dating to a degree. I never thought, is there a correct way to answer this while respecting her privacy? Nope. I got really excited and blew it, just so we're on the same page. This wasn't an attempt to cock block anyone. I thought I was being honest, but it was wrong. In my eyes, this was all I did wrong. Break her trust. It was never a manipulation tactic like she claims or anything like that. I was excited about it, overshared, and broke her trust. We FaceTimed in the morning the next day, and I inadvertently called her babe. He then shows the text messages of that. It starts out with Fed saying, Hannah playing VR horror game right now. Poki responds, laughing my ass off. She seems drunk. Fed responds, ha ha ha. She said she was terrified. Heading home. Poki responds, okie dokie. I don't even want to talk to you. I'm FOMOing too hard. Sad emoji. And for those of you who don't know, FOMO means fear of missing out. Fed responds by saying, honestly, I'd give up a lot to be back there with you right now. That's just me though. This is cool, but not anything crazy. Poki responds with a heart emoji and then says, Foki Jost squads right now without Fed. Anyways, don't say that. You know you want to be there and you'll have fun. Fed responds with sad face, I wish I could join. Yeah, I want to be here, but I'm just being honest when I say if I had to choose between going to EDC versus cuddling with you, easiest decision of my life. Watching part 1. Poki responds, waiting, to which Fed replies, hey, I'm ready. Poki responds, yay! And then Fed responds, yay, you won! Poki says, I wonder if I can call you and watch at the same time. Fed responds, I think so. Just get on Wi-Fi. Poki responds, Fed. Quick question. Fed responds, yes, what's up? Poki responds, are you calling me baby in front of others? Fed responds, no. I'm surprised you're calling me baby at all. Fed responds, sorry if it bothers you. Poki responds, that's my fave pet name, and it is boyfriend restricted. It's cute, but Fed responds, just feels right. Poki responds, I worry if we be acting too gay. Laughing my ass off, you're cute. Fed responds, sorry, I'll stop. Poki responds, it's okay, just, you're only allowed like 2 a week, like an allowance. Fed responds, I'm going to go into a fat debt. Poki responds with a happy face emoji. I'm lucky to have you. Someone who accepts me as a whole. Fed responds, all of you, every little bit. Poki then responds with an unimpressed face. Fed responds with a shut up face, and then says, I'm gonna try and stay up till 4. I don't know how possible this will be. I'm already so tired. She responds, why? He says, EDC is 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., Monka S. She responds, I'm sorry, but I'ma be asleep real soon. Fed responds, hahaha. I know, hun. I could pass out in like 5 seconds right now. Poki responds with ZZZZZ. Fed responds, good night. Poki responds, I'm here. Why is romance so complicated? Sigh. Boys suck. Fed responds, what's so complicated? Poki responds, everything. Fed responds, if you'd like me to give you space, I can do that. Poki responds, lol, you're fine. Only thing I'm worried about with you is seeming too coupley in front of others, before we actually are. It's a delicate and gossip-ridden scene, you feel me? Fed responds, yeah, outside the house I always try to be discreet/private. About that, Poki responds, but even to our friends, it's even more confusing to them. I don't know how to manage that, or how I feel about that. Fed responds, yeah, I'm not too sure how to handle all of that. Depends on how private you want to be. You tired? I don't know how much you want to talk about this stuff. Poki responds, oh sorry hun, didn't see. But yeah, I want to try to be very private until we make the jump, then I don't give a fuck. But I feel like that's not decided, so things get awkward sometimes. Fed responds, yeah, I know what you mean. Gonna be honest. And maybe I don't see the whole picture. The whole Will situation makes me Monka-S hard. Poki responds, go on. Fed responds, from what I can tell, he obviously wants, and then it just cuts off there. He then continues showing DMs, where Poki says to him, I do feel like I need to understand the boy scene a little more before being ready to commit. Maybe date around or something. I don't know. Chillin' for now. I do think you are wonderful though. But you know how I feel about it all. Fed responds, you still want to date around? Just so I understand correctly. Poki responds, I feel like I should. Fed responds, damn, alright. She responds, don't you think you should too? As much as I enjoy being with you and as comforting as it is, seems a little rushed after our pasts. Maybe you've gotten to date around more than me, with Shelby and whoever else. But for me, I don't know. And again, taking that step with you is a big deal. With work and living sitch, it's really hard for me to figure out what the right move is. But I don't know, we can sit on it some more. Fed responds, I'm too weak for this convo right now, sad face. Poki responds, got the week to figure it out? Lol. Weak? Fed responds, I don't know. I care about you a lot. So yeah, this hurts to hear. I'm not interested in anyone else. I feel like at home with you, sad face. Poki responds, I feel that way with you too, but I want to make sure it's an honest feeling and not a feeling of habit, if that makes sense. Either way, don't worry about it. We'll talk more tomorrow. Don't need to figure everything out immediately. I really gotta sleep though. I'll talk to you sometime tomorrow. Really, don't worry, heart. These next set of DMs are from April 4th, 2018, and it starts out with them saying goodnight to each other. And then Pokimane says, some of my subs said they are banned in your chat, just for knowing Fist Me. His name is Counter Magic. I don't know about the rest. Just FYI. Fed responds, KK. Poki responds, happy 100k subs on YouTube! Is everything okay? You never text me like that. FedMyster responds, you see my tweet? Lol. Everything is fine, heart heart heart. Just immediately went to talk to Seisira about it. And thank you. You inspire me every day. Poki responds, no. I was gonna thank you earlier, but you were home. Shut up, Fed. You're too nice. Fed responds, I'm honest. Poki responds, thank you, heart. No problem. Let me know if you need anything. Fed. The next set of DMs are from April 2nd, 2018, and it starts with Pokimane saying, why are you lying about calling me? FedMyster responds, I tried to call you earlier. Use the warm pads and drink water. Take care of yourself. Poki responds, yeah, I am. Will's gonna come over to watch shows too. Legit right as I needed everyone was streaming, lol. Was a little unlucky, but I'll be okay. Thank you for always caring. Fed responds, have fun, always will. He then says, are you awake? To which Poki responds, yes. Are you even home? Fed responds, no, miss you. Poki responds, lol, aww. What you doing? Going back to the document, Fed talks about inadvertently calling Pokimane babe while he was around people in the Airbnb. He then says, she called me out on using language like that in front of people, saying that she'd be worried about seeming too coupley in front of others, before we actually were, and that we were part of a delicate and gossip-ridden scene. She would say things like, I feel like I need to understand the boy scene a little more before being ready to commit, and that we should date around. For me then, this kinda came out of left field, and I felt pretty stupid. I was hurt by it this time around, because I wasn't even remotely interested in anyone else. And I was investing so much time and energy into her in general. I was trying to be understanding, but it brought up a lot of insecurities and notions of not being good enough. For both of us, emotions always made things so complicated. I wish I was better at navigating them earlier. After taking time to understand her concerns, I came around to her unease. She wanted to be sure our feelings were legit, and not just there because we were accessible to each other. By now, you can tell there's this cycle of talking again and then, oh wait, there's a problem. This cycle continued throughout the years, and every time it didn't work out. I think I lost a part of myself. More and more I started to realize maybe I'm not good enough. The things the cycle did to me were fucked. I became more and more frustrated. I started to become jealous, insecure at times. I would act out sometimes, lock myself in my room all day and stream Pokemon for the entire day to try and avoid her. I would go over to Just Friends, disbanded streamer house, and vent about my frustrations. Since we're on that subject, in her stream she mentioned I would try to manipulate Just Friends to hate her / not be her friend. That's unfoundedly slanderous. My intention was always that I wanted a friend to talk to. Lily was probably sick of hearing the same story between us every 3 months. Thanks for always listening to me anyway, Lily. I wanted nothing more than for everyone to be friends with Poki. So let me give a little context here, since that was never provided. Poki always goes to bed at midnight, every night without fail. If she doesn't, something is really wrong. And if she stays up longer, she gets crazy in a funny way. She takes the AM streaming slot, as most of you know, so that requires good sleep obviously. Of course, after my stream, I would always seek quality time with her, and that would generally involve dinner and a show. Some nights we would eat downstairs, and other nights on her bed. If I stopped the stream at 10 PM, I'd hang with her till midnight. Then I would fuck off and hang out with the rest of the house, or in a lot of cases, go to Just Friends. I would primarily vent to one of the girls about everything. She'd always give me a good female's perspective, and made me feel like it was gonna be okay. It was in some sense therapeutic. I would rarely talk to other girls about my issues with Poki, but sometimes I did. It's just nuts to hear now that I was being manipulative, and trying to make the girls hate her, or leave her out intentionally. He then links to a clip where Pokimane called him manipulative.
And the person that I would share how badly I wanted these friendships with was the same person that was actually isolating me and sabotaging these friendships for me. I don't even really know if that was his intention or not. I'd like to think it was more of an inconsiderate or careless thing, but ultimately, he drove everyone around me away from me. And I started freaking crying at the intervention and after, just out of like mourning the years of friendship that I lost with these people because of him.
Continuing on with the document, Fed says, "That's complete bullshit. I just wanted someone to talk to that could guide me through those emotions. It's also difficult to now hear some of the girls say they looked at me as a member of offline TV, and not just a friend, like I looked at them. I understand that although my intentions were innocent, the unintentional side effect is that the Just Friends people might have seen her differently. I am deeply sorry, and I wish I was more aware of those repercussions. I do, however, think intentions matter when you're characterizing someone as a manipulator in front of thousands of people. If she really was afraid of being alienated, she would have taken the time out of her day to be their friend. She didn't stream every day. She could have gone over just to hang, like I did so many times on my off days. None of these things I would ever say to Just Friends would ever imply that they shouldn't be friends with her. It was only ever typically relationship issues, and how do I get over her type of conversations. It's crazy to me that things are being said otherwise. There wasn't a looming dark cloud of malice towards her in that house. This is the truth. Poki would generally only come over if there was something she could tangibly benefit from in some way. Example, large streaming events, midnight birthday party streams. That's the same reason you never saw her come into people's streams at offline TV. And when she wasn't streaming, she was also always grinding/practicing whatever game she wanted to get better at for her stream. I don't want to go too deep into this, because I'm not here to attack her character, but it's just the way things were. She had her priorities, we had ours. I'm sure she's gotten better at it now. Midnight hangout sesh at Just Friends? Lol, why? She applied this kind of philosophy to so many things in her life. It truly disappointed me, because I and people in the house wanted her more in our lives. I get it, she was driven by her business and stream. It's just wild that I'm being the scapegoat now for her not wanting to make sacrifices to go over to Just Friends. I don't feel like that is at all fair. I found out pretty early on in my friendship with Poki that she wasn't down to do last minute or after midnight type things. Generally, I wouldn't invite her over because she was already in bed. Early on, I had invited her a few times, and she would say things like no, but have fun, or too last minute for me, thank you though. So after a while, I just stopped asking. I was in the dark about her feeling left out, until one time she called me out after a few of us went to a late night movie. She and another guy were shut in her room, and I didn't invite them. 1, I didn't want to interrupt, and 2, I still felt conflicted about her. I thought if I invited them, it would have been awkward for both of us. She got pretty pissed I didn't invite her. Meanwhile, I wasn't at all feeling responsible. I was just trying to get over her, and sometimes meant distancing myself from her. Let's rewind a little bit to another instance where I fucked up. July 2018. You remember the Josh story? Yup. I do it again. I'm not sure if his name is ever mentioned in the stream Poki made, or if he himself made comments on it, but for now, we'll just call this next guy Steve. Anyways, after the texting in May when I was at EDC, we slowed down for a short time, but things would eventually start right back up again. By July, we were back to our on stage, and things were going well. And then I noticed she started playing games with Steve a lot. During this Steve era, I definitely noticed she didn't seem as interested in me, but always kept giving me enough attention to still have her in my mind. I feel like a starved guinea pig, and my cage was my unconditional feelings for Poki, and she would feed me scrapes, just enough to keep me alive. Sorry for the image, but that's how I truly felt. At this point, she was never honest with me about how she was feeling about us. Anyways, Steve ended up coming to a house party in July, and we chatted, played some beer pong, and got to know each other a little. We dominated the beer pong tables. I knew she played games on stream with him a lot, but she never once told me she was interested in getting to know him more. This was never an attempt to keep him from her. We were literally stuck playing beer pong for half the night, because we kept winning. Of course, I think he was eventually going to ask me the question, and lo and behold, he did. So, is Poki seeing anyone right now? Ah, fuck. You would think I learned the first time, huh? Nope. I said, there's sort of something going on between us. And then I followed up with, but you do your thing, implying that he should still go for it. I know for a fact I said this, because I almost instantaneously felt bad for saying the first part. If it's not obvious already, I do say a lot of dumb things without thinking first. In Poki's stream, she claims that I told Steve not to tell anyone that I said that or talk about it at all. That is 100% false. He then shows the clip of her saying that.
Me busy, like you and Fed were, two peas in a pod all night. And he goes, oh yeah, like what's going on with you guys? And I was like, what do you mean what's going on? And the guy informed me that Fed told him that we were together when we weren't, and that he told the guy not to tell anyone, not to talk to anyone about it, not to talk to me about it. And that was the first time that Fed just like massively broke my trust, and I could never trust him or look at him the same way. And I'm very grateful that the guy in question told me this, even though Fed told him not to. And then I retroactively asked someone else from kind of the past whether Fed had said something similar to him, and they did.
He continues with the document by saying, I know what I said. Anyways, he brought my conflicted message up to her. She was furious that I made it seem like we were a thing. Again, I felt like I was being honest. Things were super complicated between us, but I broke her trust and spoke for her, so I apologized. He obviously did his thing and still messaged her about it all, so good for him. I can't justify saying what I said, but my emotions were all out of whack and I said a dumb thing. She called me out on it and I apologized. To her, this put my character into question then, and she went around asking others if I had said something similar. So that's how she found out about Josh. But that was it. I never said that to any other guy or person. In her stream, she claims that I told another guy. I know who she is referring to because she texted me the day she did this stream that she reached out to him. He then shows the clip.
And they did. And I very recently, just today, found out that he said the same thing to another guy. And the guy I found out about today was someone else that like I was seeing or wanting to get to know. I'm a very, to a fault, I'm a very confrontational person, so I confronted Fed about this, and he admitted he did it, he admitted it was wrong, and that he fucked up. And I said, okay, you know, and we tried to move on.
Continuing on, he says, I've only spoken to John, we'll just call him that, once ever, and that was in passing at a sponsored Godzilla debut, where I went with Poki. The only thing we ever talked about was his vlog equipment and camera. We never once talked about my relationship with Poki. He might have deducted that we could have been seeing each other, because we came together and sat next to each other in the movie theater. But I never said a thing about us to him. I'm fine with taking responsibility and accountability for the things I've done, but I want to be judged on the truth, not lies. Well, now I can kinda tie in everything. Some time passed and Steve and Poki started seeing each other. From what I understood, they were never officially dating similar to me. But let me give you guys some perspective how their thing affected me. So he would come over a lot, and Poki and I are neighbors. So A, here a lot, and B, wasn't completely over it yet. The emotions I felt, to me, were similar to a bad breakup, seeing someone else with the girl you like. Usually if this happens, you mute them on social media, avoid them, out of sight, out of mind kind of deal. Well, this was happening right next to where I slept and streamed. This had a huge effect on my mental health and streaming mood. And even when I wasn't streaming at all I could feel was anxiety. Sleeping was impossible. I could literally feel my manhood fading away as the days went on. So of course, I tried to escape. Where did I go? Yup, just friends. It was a hard pill to swallow, but after a while, I got used to not seeing her as much in my life, and with someone else. He would come over sometimes and she'd go to his place sometimes. I started to move on, thank the fuck. Of course, my absence in her life left somewhat of a void, because Steve wasn't over at night, and she wasn't at his place all the time either. My guess is my absence gave her a lot of FOMO, as I would always show up on Just Friends streams. Like I said before though, if she really wanted to go over to Just Friends, and be friends with them, she could have just gone over. We lived 10 minutes away. Looking back, I can certainly empathize with her. I could have invited her over more, and when she later brought up to me that she was feeling left out, I made it a point to start inviting her more, although she rarely accepted. So the claim that I was the primary reason she was isolated and that I ruined her chances with a friendship with them is a dramatic stretch. He then shows the clip of her saying that.
And the person that I would share how badly I wanted these friendships with was the same person that was actually isolating me and sabotaging these friendships for me. I don't even really know if that was his intention or not. I'd like to think it was more of an inconsiderate or careless thing, but ultimately, he drove everyone around me away from me. And I started freaking crying at the intervention and after, just out of like mourning the years of friendship that I lost with these people because of him.
The document continues by saying, I never tried to paint her as an evil person. Why would I? This is someone I genuinely cared for. That doesn't make any sense. I would only ever voice my frustrations with our relationship, just like anyone else would in my situation. She claimed she wanted to be friends with everyone at Just Friends. but she never made an effort to do so. Unless, like I said, it was either super convenient for her, or she benefited from it somehow. I hate to have to say that, but she has left me no option. I just want to mention that this on and off cycle between us continued throughout the years, and when she'd see the possibility of dating, or even start talking to someone else, she'd start to push me away. She'd stop seeing / talking to them. She would start coming around my room and wanting to be close once again. And at the time, it was very hard for me to resist getting close to her. We'd eventually be back on to some degree. The sleepovers would resume. He then shows some text messages of that, the first of which is from December 6, 2018, and it starts out with Poki saying, "Okay, so we got a hotel, but I can still stay in yours. But also I can stay in mine because, you know, winky face emojis. If you don't respond, then I'm gonna go to mine." Fed responds, "Mine," smiley face. Poki responds, "You sure? I really want to give you the freedom to do what you want," smiling emojis. "It's no worries, we have 2 beds at the other room." Fed responds, "Yes," to which Poki responds, "Beg for me to stay with you." I joke. "KK, I'll come if you're sure." Fed responds, "Yes, I'm sure." Poki responds, "Okay, say it again." Fed responds, "Yes, please stay with me." The next set of messages are from December 12th, 2018, and it starts out with FedMyster saying, "Just chillin' if you wanna hang. Sorry to bother." Poki responds, "You're fine, I'm so tired." Fed responds, "Okay." Poki responds with a pouty face and says, "What you doing? What is chillin'?" Fed responds, "You'll know, laying in bed. Could you sleep over?" Poki responds, "In your bed?" Laughing my ass off, look at us. Out here living in the same house talking about sleepovers. Fed responds, "Haha, yeah." Poki responds, "Dunno about your bed though." Fed responds, "Okay, fine, yours." Fed continues with the document by saying the massages would resume, and the flirting in general would resume. He then shows text messages of that, starting off with him saying to Pokimane, "Pog," to which she responds, "Don't you think it'd be really coupley if we went to Japan together?" "Oh no, that's me." Fed responds, "Yeah, probably. Or it could just be 2 friends traveling because that's what we are." Poki responds, "You're gonna try to touch my butt every night. Don't lie." Fed responds, 100% chance. Yep. "No, but for real, we can make it look however we want. Wingman me." Poki responds, "Look however we want." "So do you want me to wingman you or nah?" Fed responds, "Nah, I just want to explore, have fun, and eat yummy foods, to be honest." The next message is from December 15th, 2018, and it starts with Fed saying, "You still streaming?" Poki responds, "Just finished," to which Fed responds, "Come to Toko Madrea, next to the Beverly Center." Poki then shows a screenshot of a story on FedMyster's Instagram, where the 2 of them are posing together to promote new merch. She captions it by saying, "This is such a cute pic. Why was it deleted?" Fed responds, "Because I wanted to save it. I wanted Flair to delete it, because it's a big deal to me. I love this pic so much.
Vieja?
Come, I'm crying in the club right now." Poki responds, "Why?" Fed then says,
Estoy pensando en ti.
"Translate that, please." Poki responds, "I didn't need to, lol. You're saying you're thinking of me, right?" Fed responds, "Yes." Poki responds with smiling faces and then says, "Okay, sorry I wrote it out, lol. Miss you too, honey bunny. How is it? Also, I still don't understand why the pic was deleted." Fed responds, "I deleted it because it means a great deal to me. Don't want it posted randomly. You mean so much to me." Poki responds, okay. You mean a lot to me too. Feel like maybe it was something you wanted to hide. I don't know." Fed responds, "Not at all. It just means a great deal to me. I feel like sometimes you want to hide me, and I don't want you to ruin that. I love you so much." Poki responds, "I'm not trying to hide you either. I would be happy if you posted it. It was a super cute pic. Love you too, Feddy. You know this. When you coming home? I want to watch the docu, lol." Fed continues to document by saying, "There were times when she would get in my head and act possessive. When she saw me interacting and giving attention to another girl." He then shows DMs of her acting possessive. It starts out with her saying, "Fed, Jody on stream right now talking about you. Makes me wanna..." Fed responds, "Yeah, just told my stream to stop talking about her." Poki responds, "She's drunk, but acting way drunker than she actually is. And saying shit like, 'Oh my god, you guys, Fed wasn't on my stream today, but you guys are still watching. That means so much to me.' Ruffle!" I don't know, it sounds so fakey. She's using like this baby voice. Hearing that criticism come from Pokimane is just interesting. But regardless, she continues by saying, "Yikes, yikes," sounding like this emoji. I don't know, I can't stand people obviously acting more drunk than they are, or saying fake pity shit to chat. Makes me gag. Anyways, that's my event of the day, love. You have a good stream, lol. Sorry for spam while you're streaming, lols. Tongue out emoji. I legit tuned in for not even 3 minutes. and she spoke about you twice. I was like, gotta go, bye. Continuing with the document, Fed says, all these things made me and Poki's relationship very volatile, weird, and strenuous because we live with each other. And it wasn't so simple for me to turn off my feelings when things were off. FedMyster then shows another set of DMs. This one starts out with Fed showing a picture of him and Poki, and then Poki responds, hee heart emoji. What's the second one from? Fed responds, one of my streams, a screenshot. Poki responds, yeah. I mean, did you save the screenshot or something? Fed responds, I thought it was cute. Poki responds, so cute. You know, even through everything, you still make me feel really comfy. Not entirely sure why, but yeah. He continues the document by saying, she was very aware of my feelings for her, but also aware of my pain, and how hurt I'd be when she pushed me aside. She never really acknowledged my pain, but I knew it might have bothered her to see me with other girls, so I always tried my best to see them out of the house, something she never even considered doing for me. Watching her stream about me breaks my heart, because I know I had to sit there and watch her lie about the true nature of our relationship to thousands of people when it's obvious to me now she never acknowledged my feelings and cared more about eliciting sympathy from the public, while attributing her noble cause as a defense against the backlash Yvonne and Lily were getting. I will say that her speaking up definitely took a lot of heat off Yvonne and Lily, and I'm happy about that. For them, I'm okay with taking the hate, but only from where it's deserved. He then shows messages between himself and Lily Pichu. I assume they happened around August 2020 considering the video mentioned in the text. By the way, I was actually animated in that video. Very cool. Thank you so much, Andre. Either way, the message starts out with Fed saying, did you see the one video, the animated one? Lily responds, OMG yee. He then links it, and then Lily Pichu responds, dude. I feel so bad. Fed responds, I mean, you reap what you sow. I don't know if I spelled any of that right. She was deaf coming off not so cool. Lily responds, there are a lot of details and context missing though. No one says that though. They just latch on to whatever they hear. I don't know. Fed responds, I can say the same about the entire stream she made about me. Lily responds, true, but two wrongs don't make a right. Fed responds, the entire thing is missing context and the nature of our friendship. Yeah. And before we move on, I will say that the distinct difference between Andre potentially getting anything wrong is that he would have done it out of lack of information on the situation. Meanwhile, Poki knew exactly what her relationship with Fed was like before she made that live stream. So one is malicious, one isn't. And that's assuming that Andre even got anything wrong. I think the only thing said in the video that might have been inaccurate is saying that she copyright strikes multiple people when it was just me, but I digress. Let's continue on with the document. FedMyster titles this section, I never wanted Yvonne fired. In her stream, Poki says that I tried to get Yvonne fired because of the incident between us. This is 100% false. I never tried to get her fired. I always wanted her a part of offline TV. Just for reference, the incident between me and Yvonne was in December of 2018. We were all talking about having her move in with other League streamers in October of 2019, while she continued to work for offline TV. Poki claims she hadn't known about the incident between me and Yvonne, but she did. She found out in May/June of 2019, 2 months before we all started to discuss Yvonne possibly moving out. I'll go into more details later, but let me give context. Originally, Yvonne moved into the house in mid-2018 to be Poki's personal assistant and the offline TV house manager. Things were good at first, but over time, Poki would complain about Yvonne in private to me, about how little effort she's showing when it comes to helping her. She would call her lazy and not creative. Poki really wanted someone that could give 110% plus, and it was made clear to her that she was doing the bare minimum. She would complain about how much she's playing League, or that she's starting to stream. At one point, Yvonne made a YouTube channel with one video, and this made Poki very concerned to the point where she called her for a private meeting. In that meeting, Yvonne was honest and said she wasn't super interested in being a content creator, also claiming the video on her YouTube channel at the time was just for her personal memories, but that she wanted the option to do it in her free time. I'm not sure what other details were discussed, but Yvonne stopped posting YouTube videos for a long time. With this, I want to establish that Poki felt Yvonne had work ethic issues, and that Poki brought this to my awareness. Me working with Yvonne. Poki found out the incident between me and Yvonne somewhere around May/June 2019, as it was something Yvonne brought up to her. I remember being in Poki's room, and I was crying trying to explain how horrible I felt that I put Yvonne through that, and how ashamed I was. But in her stream where she claims to have not known about any of it, is false. Poki also says in her stream that I had told her that Yvonne won't brainstorm with me and won't work on stuff with me, which was true. She didn't seem keen to help, and I already knew she had some work ethic issues that were initially brought up to me by Poki the year before. Poki's purpose for bringing this up on her stream was to allude that Yvonne didn't want to work with me because of what happened between us in December 2018, and that I wanted to fire her because of it, which is false. To be very clear, I never wanted Yvonne fired. At most, I just wanted her to contribute more during this critical period, and looking back now, it was unrealistic of me to ask this, given what happened between us. I knew Yvonne had goals to hit Masters in League, and in general, stream more. I thought this was fine, but I also differed in that I had recently taken initiative and became manager of the offline TV channel. For those that don't know, Yvonne was hired as house mom / management. She was not one of the 5 talent members of offline TV, who at the time was Poki, Toast, Lily, Skara, and me. We were very close to disbanding, and as a last-ditch effort, I quit streaming to focus on offline TV content, to try and keep us together. That started with attempting to make us more efficient, just like any leader in a business whose goals are to be successful. I personally never brought up the idea that Yvonne should get kicked out of offline TV, ever. What I did do is bring up my concerns to people in the house. We all talked extensively about our options, and what we can do to motivate her, and fix what we currently have, and save moving out as a last resort, but still remain in her position as management. I naively thought my relationship with Yvonne was still good. In my head, I thought we moved on from the incident that happened a year earlier. I hadn't thought about it for months, until she brought it up on Dr. K. I should point out, just because I hadn't thought about it, doesn't mean that Yvonne hadn't. She said she had minimized the incident in her mind a lot, to protect us in offline TV, and that it was a brave thing that she should have never had to do. The point I'm making is to show that Poki claiming I tried to get Yvonne fired because of what happened is wildly inaccurate. I cared very much for my friendship with Yvonne. Some people in the house and I had really deep personal talks with Yvonne, and we all started to feel a lot better about her staying. She mentioned that it was hard for her to imagine a world without being in the house, but also shared her goals to take League and streaming more seriously. And she was very adamant about wanting to help offline TV go to the next level, not just with management. As much as I wanted offline TV to run as efficiently as possible, it was also equally hard for me to imagine the house without Yvonne. So naturally, I want things to work out. We all started feeling a lot better, and she started showing more effort, but we still decided to look for more help, because it's something we wanted anyway. If we found someone good, we would have them live in the house and use Yvonne's room, because she had now started to consider the option of moving in with other League streamers, as she wanted to take her League career more seriously. The idea of moving forward was to hire someone to do the general manager tasks. We did end up hiring someone, but they became me and Yvonne's personal assistant basically, while Yvonne transitioned mostly to developing the offline TV merch and doing small managerial stuff, while focusing on her League of Legends ambitions, both things she was very passionate about. I had a meeting with Yvonne, and she agreed to moving out, but continuing to manage for offline TV would work better for her and offline TV. Everyone wins, right? He then shows some more DMs. They are from August 4th, 2019, and it starts out with FedMyster saying, "Had a long talk with Yvonne. Also, had dinner with Michael." Poki responds, "Update me. I made a big decision as well." Fed responds, "He wants to see / help offline TV succeed, and wants to move in at some point. He's down." Poki responds, "Whoa, for real?" Fed responds, "Yvonne wants to move out, still manage offline TV, and still stream in League." Poki responds, "Questioned Yvonne wants to move out, still manage offline TV, and still stream and League. I don't get that. Best of all worlds wasn't an option as far as I know. Lol." Fed responds, "You wanna call for a sec? You free?" Poki responds, Fed then says, "What do you think?" To which Poki responds, "I'm okay with that, sorta. I don't know, just rubs me the wrong way. She got lazy, so she's gonna move out and just take care of the offline TV stuff she wants to do, lol. It's like we are working around her." Fed responds, "That's a perspective I didn't see. I hear ya." Poki responds, "For me it's like, okay, but let's look for better people. If a biz dev comes in and wants to do what Yvonne does on top of everything else, I'ma say yes. That's my ideal." Fed responds, "Hard agree." To which Poki responds, "I'm not gonna say no to that setup though, and I think that can be the transitional stage." Fed continues the document by saying, "That was the plan, but it didn't come to fruition. After Japan losing Albert, a lot of things changed and we both, Yvonne and I, started putting a lot more energy into offline TV business. We ultimately forgot about whatever plans we once had, when it seemed pointless. She was putting in the work like we had always wanted, so Yvonne moved into the next house with us. Poki wanted Yvonne fired." Poki's claim in her stream.
A huge emphasis on this. The way he shit-talked Yvonne and Lily to me and others, particularly, I will just recount my experience, is so frustrating knowing what happened between them. The Yvonne incident happened, and Fed would start talking to me. I'm so sorry for being emotional. He would talk to me about how Yvonne was lazy and not working enough and playing League all the time. And I was concerned, and he would say, "Oh, she won't work on OTV stuff with me or brainstorm."
So this is where things get dicey. We move into the new house, and we have the new remote assistant. She's doing an awesome job. and really helping me accelerate projects and run errands for me that I would otherwise not have time to do since I started streaming again. Yvonne, since her primary focus was merch, had a lot of free time, so naturally she started streaming a lot more regularly and making YouTube videos, something she had really wanted to do. I was happy we found a middle ground for her truly. Some months pass and I get a text from Poki with screenshots of her conversation with Lily, where she brings up her concerns about Yvonne becoming a content creator. I responded by saying I thought we were cool with her going the content creator route. She responds with no. She started complaining that she was getting sponsor deals, posting a lot on her YouTube, etc. She said, "It's very weird IMO." To me, it was obvious Yvonne wanted to go down the content creator route, and it had been that way for months. While I did agree it would have been a good moment to step up, we never made any of those desires clear to her. Poki suggested getting together and making a decision as a group. She first brought this up to Lily, then me, and finally Toast. She went as far as to suggest the idea that if we got a full-time house manager, that as a result Yvonne would have been kicked. He then shows the DMs. It starts out with Fed saying, "Yo, what you doing right now?" Poki responds, "Hi." FedMyster responds, "Yo," and then Poki sends Fed some DMs she had between her and Lily Pichu. The messages start out with Poki saying, "Do you have 5 minutes to text chat?" Lily responds, "Yee." Poki responds, so... Quarantine had made it very apparent that offline TV isn't really led or prioritized by anyone, I guess. And I don't mean like talent doesn't care about it, because our jobs is to be talent. Lily responds, "You mean like a Chris Chan but not shitty?" And to clarify to people, she's not talking about the Sonic 2 Chris Chan. She's talking about another Chris Chan that used to work for offline TV. Anyways, Poki responds to her by saying, "And I know Fed is partial talent, so he's focused on streaming." Yeah, exactly. And it also made me realize, Yvonne is like 90% a content creator now. Lily responds, "Yee," to which Poki responds, which is great for her if that makes her happy, for real. But also, offline TV is left in the dust a little. What do you think? Lily responds, and then it cuts off there. Poki captions these DMs to Fed with basically this, to which Fed responds, "Wanna pull some funny shit?" Poki responds, "What? Oh, you're still alive." Fed responds, okay. Never mind, no prob. And yeah, gonna be honest, not having Amanda and Danois here has def hurt. I actually haven't talked to Amanda in almost a month, and she was supposed to be a mini-me. As for me personally, I'm not trying to take advantage of streaming every day, and it's been incredibly difficult to balance both. I don't know how long this attention on me will last, I think. Poki responds, "I think you should be doing what you're doing." Fed responds, "If I reconnect with Amanda," Poki responds, "You are talent, and even though you help with content, talent is meant to be your priority. I am more so bothered Yvonne hasn't stepped up more." Fed responds, "Things could be a lot better." And that offline TV is no longer her priority. When I really thought about it, like, why did we hire Amanda? Fed responds, I see. Poki responds, "When Yvonne is supposed to be Amanda, but in the house." Fed responds, "Yeah, I feel you on that. To be honest, I thought you were cool with her going the route when we moved. Like, she started her YouTube and everything because you and us were cool with it. I remember. I'ma just come into your room?" Bump. Poki responds, "Hi." Fed responds, "Hi." Poki responds, no. Fed responds, "I don't remember the exact context." Poki responds, "We agreed, like, content creation was not the route, but that she likes to stream on the side, but offline TV is main thing. But now it's like, sponsor deals, YouTube channel, etc. It's very weird in my opinion." Fed responds, "Yeah, I feel like she's definitely in a direction where she's leaning towards content creation. To be honest, we didn't make that clear though. At least I don't think we didn't, but despite that, I do agree we need fucking massive help right now. And now would have been a good moment to step up." Poki responds, I guess like, I just dislike disorganization, inefficiency, and that's what I feel." Fed responds, "I hear that." Poki responds, "So I think we need to get together and make some solid decisions as a group, or else the decisions will force themselves onto us down the road. For example, if we got someone to help manage, what happens to Yvonne? Isn't that a weird thought?" Fed responds, "Yeah, true. And yeah, we'll talk about things tomorrow after meeting. You talked to Toast Skara about it?" Poki responds, "Toast right now. We know we want/need help, but I don't think we know about what to do in regards to Yvonne." Fed responds, "Yeah, I think we just need to tell her what we want." Poki responds, "Yeah, I'm wondering what you guys want." Fed responds, "I mean, to be honest, all I think about is what I'm lacking. Haven't thought about her business too much. I'll think about it though." Poki responds, "Okies." Continuing on with the document, Fed says, "I show these DMs because they further show I had no interest in seeing Yvonne fired. If I truly wanted her out, I wouldn't go as far as to defend a decision we both agreed on 6 months earlier." Conclusion of Poki's stream. I want to make it clear, I spent months debating on whether or not to release this, because I know how much pain it might cause everyone involved. I know this will in no way clear my name, but it's been hard to sleep at night when I know there's so much misinformation and spiteful narratives against me out there, that were carried out by people I once considered family. I know I'm an imperfect person who has made mistakes, but never have I ever wanted to intentionally hurt anyone. I'm working on growing and becoming more aware of my actions with goals to be a person I could have never been before all this. Overall though, it's clear to me that she used her stream, and Yvonne, and Lily's statement to cover up her own insecurities and failures about not making enough effort to make or maintain friendships. As I look through all of the streams that were made about me, not including Yvonne's and Lily's, it's abundantly evident that she was at the center of collecting information about me, and passing that info on to our friends, with little care for accuracy or truth. He then shares this stream clip.
Until Poki reached out to me, like a week ago, and she like prodded for information, and she's like, hey, do you have like any experiences with Fed, by the way?
The document continues by saying, so she could help them twist and align their stories with the narrative she's trying to fabricate. It appears she has some resentment over what me and her had. He then shows another clip.
Mind you, this was very recent, and this was the first time I opened up about my past experiences with Fed to all the girls in our friend circle, and this led to everyone slowly opening up about their negative experiences with Fed. Mind you, I felt like it was a good enough time to talk about my resentment because it was way past everything that happened.
He continues by saying, I also want to mention that on stream she was supportive about me getting help and changing. Yet, a month later I posted a photo on Instagram captioning it, I'm working on myself. Here is that Instagram post. He says in it, I'm doing okay, focusing on my health, mental, and character, working on changing for the better. This will take time. See you soon. Going back to the document, he says, 1 hour later she unfollowed me off all social media, and 2 hours later she posted this tweet, with comments taken straight from my post. It seems she is less interested in seeing me change, and more interested in seeing me cancelled. Now this tweet may be familiar to some of you guys because a lot of people covered it when it came out. I even have a whole video on it, but she says, in this industry, a girl fucks up. What a fake bitch. Such a worthless piece of shit. Also go die in a hole. A guy fucks up. Oh my god, King, don't worry. Everyone makes mistakes. We know you have a good heart and we'll be here for you forever. Going back to the document, his last section is called The Intervention Aftermath. I also wanted to quickly mention all the steps I took after the intervention. As a house, they agreed they didn't want to see me burn, and that I was going to release my own statement and everyone's approval. When the intervention happened, I took it all very seriously. I was so sorry and remorseful. I went back to my room feeling lost, scared, and alone, and in complete shock. I called 3 people and told them what everyone at the intervention had told me, and what I was going to do moving forward. I would say things like, I'm obviously going to get help and step down from offline TV projects, and that I'm going to need a new place to stay. Things that were on my mind and that I had to think about. Some of them felt bad for me. One of them thought it was all ridiculous, but it was never my intention to have them feel that way towards my actions. I called them because I didn't know who else to call, and wanted someone to tell me I was going to be okay. I guess word got out of these calls, and people at the intervention saw it as me trying to defend myself, or not giving them the full picture. This was never the case or intention, ever. I was only ever looking for comfort, and they gave me that. From what I can tell, they deduced from those calls that I wasn't trying to change or take things seriously. It hurts to know how quickly they came to this conclusion, knowing full well the gravity of the situation, and how little effort there was to talk directly to me. All the while, I was writing my statement. I had 6 or 7 drafts going back and forth with offline TV. I scheduled therapy and told them about it. I also temporarily left the house to stay at my brother's place, so Yvonne would feel more comfortable. From what I understood, the more they talked to people I called, the more they began to think that I wasn't changing, and only cared about my image. About 3 days later, as I'm preparing my 7th draft statement, I get a message from offline TV that Yvonne is going to release her own statement in 15 minutes. My own statement was deemed worthless, and I had 15 minutes to chalk up a tweet response to her statement. It's really sad looking back now. I really wanted to work on a statement everyone was good with, but because to them it looked like I was trying to defend myself, not giving the full picture, and not taking things seriously, based on other people's phone calls, it all came down to this. A really bad game of telephone. End. Overall, it's clear Poki and I had a very volatile relationship, and I'm certainly guilty of being inconsiderate, oversharing, and breaking her trust. But I hope this new information sheds a light on my side of things, and gives a lot of much needed context that wasn't initially provided. Never at any point was I trying to be manipulative or keep Poki from making friends. I never wanted Yvonne fired. It horrifies me for how much and for how long misinformation about me and my character has been out there. Like I said, there are some issues I'm working on, and I feel like I've already made a lot of progress. I hope one day that I could be the man I could have never been before all of this. I really wish I didn't have to show text/DMs, as this is something I'm profoundly against, but this was an important person in my life for years, and for her to manipulate the narrative the way she did to the public leaves me no choice because I am not the person she described. TLDR, I want to defend myself where possible, just giving context to things I felt were necessary for my piece. I'm sober and in therapy. I have learned a lot about myself and my issues. I'm working very hard to address what causes these issues. My relationship with Poki was a lot more complicated than we were just close. I didn't try to manipulate our friends to get them to hate Poki. Poki's relationship with just friends was professional, and she used me as a scapegoat for not forming friendships with them. She isolated herself from them. I told some people we had a thing, and I felt I was being honest. However, it was wrong because I broke her trust and privacy. I never tried to get Yvonne fired because of the incident between us, but Poki later does for other reasons. I also wanted to add I've made similar statements for others, not Yvonne or Lily, and these statements include apologies, but also dispute some claims they made in their streams, while offering explanations from my point of view. Currently I've not decided whether or not to post them. Well, considering this one was leaked and you weren't initially going to post it, I would assume he isn't going to post it, but as to who he is referring to with these posts he was going to make, I think the streamer Yasuo was definitely one of them. He used to be FedMyster's best friend and he said some pretty damning stuff against him once all the drama came out with him last June. Anyways, he ends this off with a small personal update. He says, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The last few months have been some of the most dark, challenging, and loneliest periods of my life. The silver lining is there's been newfound appreciation for all the small things in life that I previously brushed under the rug. As for my future endeavors, I don't plan to return to streaming/content related projects until I'm someone that I know I can be proud of, and this will take time. If there's one thing I've learned throughout all of this, is that talking through your emotions is very powerful. I urge everyone reading to not bottle things up. Don't be afraid to seek help/therapy. With patience and effort, it can change your life and perspective for the better. And that is finally it for the Google document. Now let's talk about the aftermath of this Google Doc getting leaked. As when it happened, Pokimane decided to get into a call with FedMyster, and it resulted in him posting this tweet that links to a Google document titled Re-Leak/Pokimane. In it he says, "Hey guys, it's been brought to my attention that a document I wrote many months ago has been leaked. I want to make it clear that this is not something I wanted out publicly. The document was leaked by someone I asked for advice and support, who chose to maliciously violate my trust. A while ago, Poki and I spoke about what happened. We came to agree that keeping things private and making no further statements publicly was what was best for both of us. To keep the document private, we wanted to heal and prevent any further harm to the people involved. She would make a brief supportive statement when I returned, and we would go our separate ways. No more drama and not reopening old wounds. We were both happy with this agreement, and the peace of mind that came with it, but one of the people I had turned to for advice and support, when I needed it the most, violated my trust, sending the document to streamers. I just want to apologize, as I do feel responsible for such extremely sensitive and private conversations to be aired out like dirty laundry. When I wrote this statement months ago, I was encouraged by my friends to write out my side of things. However, I did it feeling extremely vindictive as I felt that someone that I once deeply cared for inaccurately spoke out against me. To this day, I do believe that I was mischaracterized. However, after talking to Poki, I came to understand her perspective and decision making. My outlook on the situation as a whole now comes from a better place of understanding. Additionally, after hearing her side about Yvonne almost getting fired, it was made clear to me that the point of her bringing that up wasn't to allude to the false claim I wanted her fired, but more so to highlight the fact that her lack of motivation to work with me stemmed from her feeling uncomfortable because of our incident, which, again, as I said in the document, I am deeply sorry for and wish I wasn't so naive and insensitive. On the topic of whether I tried to manipulate our friends to hate her, I still fully stand behind what my document reads, but want to further emphasize that although it wasn't my intention to shine Poki in a bad light, when I'd vent/confide to our friends about my frustrations, the side effect was that many of our friends perceived her differently, and in turn, avoided pursuing friendships with her. They then admitted this to her after the intervention, so I now better understand why she felt manipulated. I know a lot of details surrounding the nature of our friendship were shown, but I'd like to be the first to prevent any further speculation by saying we were never intimate or in a relationship. Poki and I were very close and often flirty, but that was the extent of it. I know the way things unfold in the document, it seems like I'm alluding to her leading me on, but I don't believe that. And I think that the truth is somewhere in between. We both made mistakes and have owned up to them privately. I hope everyone reading will move on from this, as we certainly have already. please respect our privacy and avoid sharing or discussing this leak, as it's a gross invasion of privacy and I regret that it was made public. Fed. So previously Fed said the relationship was intimate, and now he's saying it isn't. Anyways, after this was posted, Poki reacted to it on her live stream, along with the entire document. Let's see if her explanation is as convincing as Fed is saying here.
I've seen this document. I've seen 3 versions of this document already. Because as you can tell, it was made months ago. It has not been 2 months since the incident. When I confronted him about finding out about this document, it was the first time that we've spoken since everything unfolded. And it wasn't easy, but we came to a decent understanding of each other and wanting to handle it privately, which is why it's so unfortunate that this was leaked anyways. Very unfortunate. And he says that basically the purpose is that when he saw my stream where I talked about him, he feels like it painted him in a very negative light. I understand from his perspective it seems like that, but obviously I feel like I also spoke my truth. At the end of the day, you know, there's 2 sides to every story. So there was a Taiwan trip, February 14th, 2018, Valentine's Day, woo, almost 3 years ago now. And that was the first time that, like, you know, me and Fed had, like, flirted or gotten close, or essentially it was when we first started getting close. You guys fucking eating popcorn? Fuck you guys. This is my real life. Insert very cringy text messages that have no place on the internet, but yeah, I mean, essentially me and Fed had just gotten really close, although we obviously weren't like dating, we were like talking, you know, and we lived together. It's like, yeah, we were able to hang out a lot and we worked together, so yeah, we became close. In March 2018, we had an honest discussion about the direction we were heading, and she brought up some notable problems. A, that we live together and could be a problem if things don't work out, and B, we are board members / own equity of the company that we work for. This could be a conflict of interest and could get nasty if things didn't work out between us. So I am very much of that mindset where it's like, if there are so many conflicts in regards to me pursuing something with someone, I am highly unlikely to do it unless I felt like, wow, like this is the person for me. Sorry, I need to let my cat in. Definitely, this was like the first time we got to know each other, and therefore like kind of the flirtiest time in my opinion. But then I was like, we can't really do this unless, again, I feel like this is something we seriously want to pursue. Of course, it was pretty obvious to him that I was texting Poki, and I actually remember this, that we were texting, and I think just like alluding to our manager and Josh that we were talking. He goes on to say like I'm a really private person and that he shouldn't have alluded to someone that we were talking. But actually, in this instance, we really like this was the first time that we started talking, and we were starting to talk pretty seriously. And I was like, I need to figure out whether this is something that I want to pursue and risk the conflict of interest, or just something I'm not interested in. So I actually don't really care about this at all. Where he's like, I shouldn't have overshared. This was not my issue at this point in time. I feel like I need to understand the boy scene a little bit more. I mean, you know, I was like 20, 21 in LA, single, freshly in LA, whatever the heck, right? I wanted to be sure of whoever I was going to pursue. And also for Fed, as I said here, also he should date around, because like I also didn't like the online pressure of people shipping us, and I don't like the idea of like falling into it just because there's pressure. I think it is much healthier to like get a good lay of the land and pursue someone because you genuinely like them, not just because there's like internet attention around your names. For me then, this came out of left field and I felt pretty stupid. I was hurt. Blah, blah. I do remember having this conversation, and I was investing so much time. I was trying to be understanding, but it brought up a lot of insecurities and notions of not being good enough. And for me, it was like, I just need to figure out whether I like actually like someone or not. We're physically really close, and that makes you feel like maybe someone's like the right person, but anyways. Oh my god, this is so cringe because like, I'm not like massively older and massively more mature, but I really was that. I was like, don't like call me pet names unless we're dating. Because I feel like just a line I draw, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, whatever. I think it's a part he skipped over in his document, but there's VODs of this. After EDC, I went to Canada around that time, to visit my parents, and he had surprise visited me in Canada. Again, around the time that we first started talking, I was like, do I like him, do I not? And then when he showed up, I was really flattered by that because I don't have like a shit ton of dating experience and no one had ever done such like an extravagant thing per se to surprise me. So I was like, oh, maybe I should give him a chance. And so in Canada, I was like trying to open my heart up to the idea a bit more. But I realized it just didn't feel right, essentially. And I was like, oh, okay, now I know like this is not something that I want to pursue. So when we came back home, again, May-ish, I had that talk with him. May 2018, I believe. I had that talk with him. And I was like, because I remember it was an emotional talk. I was like, listen, dog, blah, blah, blah. To me, it was like, I've had this conversation with you. Admittedly, in hindsight, it was selfish that like, I wanted to like still be friends and still be close. But I think he read that as like signs of maybe wanting more. But in my mind, I was like, I already had this convo with you of like not wanting more. There was like this cycle of like, we'd get close and I'd be like, I think like you think this is headed in a way that it's not headed. Like we can't be like this close. Because like boundaries would be pushed and blah, blah, blah. I also want to say that I feel he implied we were heavily involved when me and Fed were never intimate, we were never sexual. And also I knew, and anyone who has watched his stream, like he's kind of a flirty guy, right? So as cringy as these are, I don't think these texts from 3 years ago are indicative of much in regards to the things that I said were problematic in my first stream, which I will get to. Essentially, people reading this document may feel like I lied about there being something going on between me and Fed. I understand where that comes from completely, and just want to explain that I was trying to share a very specific instance where I felt Fed lied about the state of our friendship or relationship, and it happened much later than these texts in Taiwan. It happened way after May when he visited, and I had that conversation with him of like, listen, I just want to be friends. Genuinely speaking, I can't say that either of us maneuvered the situation as best as we could, but I always tried to be so upfront about like, I just want to be friends. I'm seeing other people. Like, yeah, I want to be close to you. Obviously still want to be your friend. Like, you're a really important person in my life. And I understand those signs are probably misconstrued. But that's why I was so open about like, oh, I'm really excited for like this person to come to the party. I want to talk to this person, that person, blah, blah, blah. He told Steve essentially that we were a thing long after I had this conversation with him about I just want to be friends. So that's why I mentioned that specific part on my stream. So I understand now people are like, yeah, but you guys flirted, so you had a thing. In my mind, it was like, we flirt here, we end here. And then he fucks up way over here. I hope that makes sense. To me, this was an incident with Steve, an incident that was very clearly a mess up on Fed's part, because when he told Steve that night, oh yeah, me and Poki have a thing, Steve told me, and I said, no, we don't. I confronted Fed about it. Fed apologized and said, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Like, yeah, it was my bad. I didn't want something happening, blah, blah, blah. So to me, it was like, oh, you admitted fault. Like, you know that what you did was wrong. And also, prior to the first stream I did where I spoke about everything, I messaged Fed and I said, I'm going to speak out about things because I feel like people are being really harsh towards Lily and Yvonne and they're not believing them. Is there anything that you would really want me to leave out? I don't know if I can accommodate, but I also don't want to make things terribly difficult for you. I won't mention or super personal details, mainly some lies and instances where people felt manipulated. And he said, if you can find it in you to leave out telling like the situation where I told Steve that you and I were a thing, it's something I would just not like mentioned, but I understand if not. Otherwise, I trust you, and I think doing what's best for Lily and Yvonne's comfort is the right play. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't leave that out because it's the best/easiest example I can give of lying or like some form of manipulation. So again, this is the only thing I am willing to include, like just as an actual fact check of like, he asked me not to mention this thing, which to me is like an admission of guilt, essentially. But now, months later, he's saying, oh no, that's not how it went down. And you know what? It's his prerogative to say that. But obviously, I have been told and have been believing what I've been told for however long. So that was my truth in regards to this happening. It really bothered me that in this document, he tried so hard to paint me as the bad guy or like leading him on when I felt I was always honest. And I know there are parts in here where he's like, yeah, and sometimes she would like hang out with guys at the house and it was like, it felt really bad for me. And you know what? I get that, but I hope you guys can also see from my perspective, that was me trying to be upfront about like, I am dating, I am seeing people, like, again, I am not pursuing a future between the two of us. But anyways, looking back, I should have been more aware and careful of how I acted around him, so there are no signals to misread, but you know, hindsight 2020. And I learned a lot from the situation. To me, in all honesty, all of this is really not all that important. It's regular 20-year-old relationship bullshit. He said, she said, blah, blah, blah. You know, nothing that important happened, in my opinion. What I shared about the Steve situation is my honest truth. And I feel like it is just really irrelevant in comparison to the incident that actually triggered all of this. That's unfoundedly slanderous. I'm so sorry, that wording makes me laugh a bit. As much as me and Fed like kind of got along, we just are such different people and we see things so differently. So the way he sees it is like, oh, I'm just like venting to my friends because I need to let my emotions out. For me, I tried really hard not to vent to people within or very close to OTV about Fed because I knew that essentially it's kind of like shit talking him and then they're going to see him differently and it's just going to fuck with the dynamic. But I don't think he realized that aspect of things. I'd rarely talk to the other girls about my issues with Poki. From my perspective and from what I've heard, that doesn't seem true. He also mentions talking to Lily. He mentions talking to another girl at Just Friends. And again, just not what I really heard. He was very frustrated by the fact that I was saying, all of these people around me have come to me and told me that they essentially avoided being my friend because of things you had told them. And that made them feel manipulated. That made me feel manipulated. But it wasn't his intention and he wasn't trying to be manipulative. So you see how it's a bit of a fine line. He was really unhappy being painted as a manipulator when in reality, he was just inconsiderate in the way that he was talking about me. But to us, it just felt manipulative because we're like, oh, we just missed out on friendships we could have had all along, essentially. This is the truth. Poki would generally only come over if there was something she could tangibly benefit from in some way. Large streaming events, midnight birthday streams. It's the same reason you never saw her come into people's streams at OTV. And when she wasn't streaming, she was also always grinding or practicing whatever game she wanted to get better at for stream. I don't want to go into this too deep. Sorry. Because I'm not here to attack her character, but it's just the way things were. My side. Hello, it is me, Poki, the actual person doing these things. It is so weird to, like, by a friend try to be painted as, like, this, like, ruthless businesswoman. Like, yeah, I mean, streaming is such a cool career. Of course, it's something that I care about a lot, that I was especially really interested in then. I've learned to balance my life a bit better. But I just want to say, these are none of the reasons why it was sometimes difficult for me to hang out with other people. It wasn't because I wanted something out of them. I mean, I can't even recall anything that I could gain from, like, streaming events at other people's houses, midnight birthday streams. I'm like one head in the back of like 20. The reason these were a bit easier for me to go to is because, like, oh, it's someone's birthday. I want to go say happy birthday. But when it comes to, like, oh, let me just Uber over to their house at a point in time where I didn't have solid friendships with these people, essentially, like, the things that he had said to people, I could tell that there were just bad vibes. You know what I mean? I think you guys know what I mean. Like, sometimes you get that sentiment that someone just sees you differently or, like, isn't really open to wanting to be your friend. That's why, like, I couldn't drive over at 10 p.m. like he perhaps felt comfortable to, and I felt more comfortable in large settings. I remember this thought pattern that I had a lot and that I even shared with him where I was like, do you think I like come off as intimidating to some people or something? Like, am I hard to approach? Sometimes I want to be friends with people, but I feel like I don't get that same feeling back. I know this is something I shared with him, and it has nothing to do with me profiting off of, like, oh my god, lol, I don't even know, you know? I'm not saying this is entirely Fed's fault. To some extent, it was also me, but I know that after the intervention, it felt like there was like this barrier lifted between me and so many other people, and now my friendships is just like tremendously better than it was before. And I believe this. I don't think he was actively trying to make people not want to be my friend, even though that's what he ended up doing. And this wasn't a conclusion that I tried to come to at all. It was one that was almost like hurtfully thrown in my face when we held these interventions. And I spoke out about my feelings, and so many people came up to me and apologized and told me that they saw me in a different light because of things Fed said. So yeah, the same thing has happened to me. You know, sometimes he has mentioned certain things to me, and maybe he doesn't think that it'll have an impact on the way that I see someone, but it does. And then I kind of avoid being their friend. But then later on, I find out that they're actually really great people I would have gotten along with. And it's something that just happens in friend groups, okay? It just fucking happens. Unfortunately, the way it happened with Fed was like a bit of a larger scale and a bit more only about me. Steve told me, Fed said, you guys are seeing each other, and he told me not to tell you that I know. And he's saying that that's not true, but I confronted Fed about it the very next day. I told Fed that I would talk about it prior to my stream when I spoke about the Yvonne and Lily situation. I feel like that's all that I can do. And he did not say that any of it was false up until very recently. And then he talks more about how we would get closer when I wasn't seeing someone. And I think that's fair. But also to me, it was like, for me, like my boundary of we're seeing each other isn't like, oh, we're like hanging out, we're close, this and that. So I think it was just like a messy situation in general. Again, not saying I handled it the best. Not saying he handled it the best either. Again, some of this stuff is tough to read because I feel like him being like, she's lying to thousands of people. It's just like him venting and isn't really meant to be out there. And I think even now, as he said in his statement, like he realizes that all I was saying was my truth. I have no reason to lie about him. There's just really no need. This text, I regret so much. I don't really know why he included like this text where I was being very petty towards Jody. I think this was like 2 or 3 houses ago when Jody was first entering the friend group, and I had like heard perhaps some like not the best things, and so my perception was skewed, and I just said some petty stuff that is bad. And I want you guys to know actually that when I first saw this document and I spoke to Fed about it and we resolved things privately, I immediately, like as soon as I saw that text message, I immediately went to Jody and I was like, listen, this is never going to be public, but I want to apologize for what I said because it's just BM and stupid, and she is such a lovely person, such a lovely friend of mine now, and I just regret ever saying that about her. It felt like me and Fed were like best friends at one point, and there were things that probably came off to him as like more romantic that to me were just like, oh, like, I love you so much as a friend, which is so cringe to say, and I've learned my lesson. Also, everybody in the friend group like called each other honey bunny, which is like cringe again. But like also this is the way that I act with a lot of my girlfriends. I understand you don't act this way with your guy friends, but again, learning lesson. So yeah, it feels so weird to talk about this because it really is just like cringe. I think the Yvonne situation is important to address though, so let's get into it. Here's my TLDR. For my stream talking about Fed felt like it made it seem like I was saying he was trying to get Yvonne fired. In reality, I was trying to say that Fed didn't directly try to do that, but she was almost let go from OTV because she had a lack of motivation towards the work, but her lack of motivation stemmed from what Fed had done to her. I'm genuinely sorry to you guys, the public, if I didn't convey that message properly the first time that I said it, but that's what I meant. And that led into all of these conversations that you see where we're like, do we need to get someone else on board? What are we doing? Like, we need to fix things, blah, 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 blah. That's where it all stemmed from, but in reality, like, it was nothing that was actually wrong with her, and it was from the situation that occurred. And yeah, I was also very frustrated thinking back to times where I didn't know about what happened, and he would complain about her to me. And I'm like a pretty business-oriented person, and I'm like, I don't want OTV to die. What do? We need to fix this problem. Like, I think that's essentially what these text messages are. Do you guys hear my stomach? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I've been up for like 30 hours and I haven't eaten since yesterday. I'll eat after. I'm so sorry. But yeah, let me get through this. For me, it's like, if she doesn't want this position, like, we should get someone else, like a biz dev, someone who's really passionate about it, blah, blah, blah. And it makes me mad to see me talk like this, because me at that time had no motherfucking clue what happened between Fed and Yvonne and why she was acting this way. Does that make sense? Okay, thanks. I think that makes sense. Quick side note. OTV has a bit of a problem where people in the past that we've hired for specific positions slowly turned into content creators. So that was a bit of a sore spot, especially for me. And so I was like, please no, another one bites the dust. Like, I don't want that to happen. But really all it needed was like a good conversation between me and her, and everything was resolved after. And I was like, no, we can make this work. Like, I can see that's not your end goal. So she's such a special part of OTV that obviously we wanted to make it work. I don't want to talk about Yvonne, like, personally. The stuff relating to me, sure. Cool with her going the content creator route. She responds with no. She started complaining that she was getting sponsor deals, posting a lot on her YouTube, etc. She said it's very weird, IMO. I just want to clarify again. Yvonne, get that bag. Whoever, get that bag. The same thing had happened to us in the past, and I just didn't want someone else to like be brought on board and then just become a content creator. That's what I was bothered about. If she's like, but again, we had the conversation later on where she's like, no, like, that's not my end goal, and I like what I do with OTV. And that was enough reassurement for me. This is me trying to make sure offline TV doesn't die. I don't really know what he's trying to show by these messages, but I've always been someone in the group who's like, guys, we need like consistency. We need to make sure we have someone focusing on the group. And what happened was that, if you guys remember, during quarantine, Fed started streaming a lot more. And he kind of stopped being our main content guy. And can I just say, at this point, none of this matters, because OTV has been fucking great for like half a year. Because we now have like a decent amount of employees doing an amazing job, and I no longer have conversations like this because things are running smoothly, and I'm so happy about it. It's so sad to have these random one-off out of context screenshots leaked to try to make me look bad, when in reality I'm just saying, like, I care about this thing. I want to make sure it works. What do we do if Yvonne does want to be a full-time creator? What do we do now that we don't have someone working on this, on that? Like, that's really all that I'm trying to do. I hope you guys can see that. I show these DMs because they further show that I had no interest in seeing Yvonne fired. But they're DMs of me. It doesn't even have anything to do with him, in my opinion. But again, this is all irrelevant because Fed now understands. I wasn't saying he was trying to get her fired. I know this will in no way clear my name, but it's been hard to sleep at night when I know there's so much misinformation, spiteful narratives, blah, blah, blah. I also don't think he feels this way anymore. I think I have always been very clear that the only reason I spoke out about my negative experiences with Fed was because, I don't know if you guys remember, but when Lily and Yvonne first came out with their statements, people were like shitting on them. And it was really just not okay. And I felt that I had to speak to his character in a sense. To this day, I know that's something that was very impactful for both Lily and Yvonne. And I know Lily literally removed her tweet because of all the shit she was getting. I think he said something about me collecting information. Any information I was collecting was for the intervention. I did have a lot of pent-up resentment towards Fed, but that's one of the main reasons why I tried to move out. I felt like it was a me problem. I was like, listen, we have like baggage. Our friendship is not what it once was. And I saw him differently. He probably saw me differently. And I was like, you know what? I love OTV. I don't want to cause any issues. So I started making plans to move out. Because I also think there are like all these conspiracy theories that like I wanted Fed out of OTV or stuff like that. I want to make it really clear. I had no agenda when it came to Fed. And I think the biggest testament to that is that I moved out before he did. I was planning to move out to deal with my own resentment towards him and my own issues way before Yvonne came out with her statement and before Fed left the house. I think if I wanted to kick him out, like I would have just stayed and tried to, like to me, it just doesn't make sense. But also to further elaborate on why I moved out, I just wasn't close enough with anybody else in the house back then. I also felt like there were barriers in certain places there, which luckily have broken down over the last few months, and I'm so happy. Like, I have never loved everybody in OTV more than I do today. Prior to that, prior to moving out, I just felt like Fed was the closest person I was with. Our friendship had kind of soured, and I wasn't as close with anyone else. So I was like, listen, I'm just going to take myself out of the equation so we can still make content together and everybody is happy together. And I'm going to go live with some girls, no boy drama, and hopefully also a better separation of my work and personal life, because that is of large importance to me. 1 hour later, she unfollowed me off all social media, and 2 hours later, she posted this tweet with comments taken straight from my post. It seems she is less interested in seeing me change and more interested in seeing me canceled. And okay, he did post this like a month after everything happened. And I did tweet. I was like, in this industry, a girl fucks up with a fake bitch. A guy fucks up, OMG king, don't worry, everybody makes mistakes. And I won't lie, that is some petty shit I did. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, they're unrelated. You know, like, yeah, I saw it and I was like, I feel like it's a bit soon. And I just, I didn't want to see it. And maybe I tweeted a little petty thing or not. I don't know if this is like something I'm supposed to apologize for. I think I'll just admit, like, yeah, I did this. Is it the nicest thing? No, but also I was just so over it. This also stems a little bit from seeing different situations with others. I don't know, I'll say some weird shit like 6 years ago and randoms will like never let it go. So I did feel a bit of like personally slighted. So I know this is also a sort of insecurity of mine, but also just being a petty bitch sometimes. Essentially, he's saying like, after the intervention, I spoke to some people about it, and the way those people talked to people in OTV about it made OTV feel like I wasn't taking it seriously, even though Fed felt he was taking it seriously. And again, when I found this document, I actually had a very upfront conversation with him about like, these are the specific things you did and said that made us think you weren't taking what we said very seriously, and also making us feel like you were kind of just trying to figure out what was next for you as opposed to really reflecting on your past mistakes. And he was like, oh, okay, I understand that. What we released publicly was always in Yvonne's hands, and I think that's how it should be. I would never pressure someone to talk about something so personal publicly, and that's just the way we went about it. I really wanted to, at the very least, have that private intervention and hope that he gets better. But when it comes to how we handled it publicly, that's a group decision and an Yvonne decision. I mean, an Yvonne decision in regards to what she says publicly, but how we handle it is a group decision. Fed did some really distasteful things that many of our friends spoke out about. It just feels like an unnecessary diversion from the more important things. I do understand he feels that he was made to look worse than he is, but two wrongs don't make a right. And this document is just so wrong on so many levels. He was close to me for 2+ years. Sure, he has a lot of texts that could make me look sus, especially out of context. I'd like to think that I've grown since then, but also, if the worst what I've said or done is like some small petty stuff, I feel like it's still pretty far from the incident that triggered all of this. It doesn't change what he did. Also, I understand the conspiracy theories are enticing, but there is no big bad ruthless businesswoman decisions being made here. we've always told Yvonne that when it comes to this very delicate matter, it is entirely up to her. And OTV is like fucking 23 people. I'm just kidding, like 5, 6, 7, something like that. And I don't control it. I just really don't. Of course, I have a say, and I'm always trying to do what is best. I'm not always perfect, but yeah. Ultimately, I think it's fair to say that there's my truth, there's his truth, and the actual truth is probably somewhere in between. I'm not perfect. I'm far from. Same with Fed. I am really sad that what was once such a close friendship of mine has turned into all of this. Like, it genuinely feels like surreal. I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna mentally process that. And I really hope to never have a public feud like this ever again. I'm genuinely trying not to be involved in drama, hence why I spoke to him about this document weeks ago privately, and we came to an agreement on how to handle the situation. It is unlucky that he shared it with someone who then leaked it. I hope I can show you guys who I genuinely am, who I want to be, by hopefully avoiding or properly handling these types of conflicts, because I really don't enjoy being in this situation. He brings up a fair point where he says I lied about not knowing what happened between him and Yvonne. On my stream, I said how I was so upset. Thinking back at the times, I was worried about Yvonne's behavior and how much she was or wasn't dedicated to OTV, when in reality she was acting out a certain way because of what Fed did to her. And I think the way he interpreted it, and perhaps the way it was understood publicly also, is me pretending like I didn't know. But what I meant was that I hadn't known for so many months. And then there was a point in time where I heard about what had happened, but I did not have full details. I didn't know about it to the extent that it was spoken about publicly, whether on Dr. Kate or in the statement. I didn't know it happened twice. You know, like, I just heard that something inappropriate had happened between Fed and Yvonne. But prior to me hearing about this, which was at least half a year after the actual incident, there was a half a year of me, like, essentially, like, seeing Yvonne in a light that was false. Does that make sense? This is like cringe overlord for me. Overlord? Overload. I'm the overlord. But yeah. Is it over? Bridge burned forever. I think we are on decent terms, actually. I mean, we talked about this. I think we all want to move the fuck on. Oh my god, Fed's in chat. God, my life is so fucking weird! Ah! I'm gonna cry. Does Fed know you're talking about it now? Well, yeah, seems like it. Alright, sorry, back to the questions. What's up? Why did you say that Fed shit-talked Yvonne when he wanted Yvonne to stay and you in reality wanted Yvonne fired? Seems like you're changing your first story. I never wanted Yvonne fired. I wanted OTV to always be working and consistent. And because of that, we did have to have conversations about Yvonne's position and role within the company. Fed did complain about Yvonne to people, not just to me, and that is what I'm referring to. Why would you say two wrongs don't make a right when Fed didn't even want the document to be public? It was good for Fed to write out his feelings and then get a better understanding, which he admitted. Because the document is still out there and it was still created, and until we had come to a private agreement, it was going to be released. Genuine question, I don't have any particular side, but do you think nobody will notice how deliberately vague you're being while skipping over every screenshot from Fred that contradicts what you're saying about the sexual/romance talk? You repeatedly push and pull him away whilst being occasionally so possessive of him that you're spiteful over Jody simply mentioning him on stream. Thought maybe. That's fair. I think I skip over some of the texts that I feel don't really add much value. Like, yeah, we flirted. I don't know what else there is really for me to say. The Jody thing was just like an unfortunate petty thing. I I actually wasn't trying to be possessive of him at the time. Also, all of these screenshots are from like wildly different times. So if you see screenshots from like when we were talking and then when we weren't, and then from back then later on, you're gonna think that it's like a constant push and pull. But that was never my intention. And yep, clock. If a girl flirts, OMG, you let him on. If a guy fucks up and sexually harasses someone, OMG, stop. I shouldn't have read that one. But that's true. Sorry, not the whole thing. I just mean like, I don't know why people want me to go into text where I'm like, you're cute. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, this shit should not be out there anyways. What do you want me to say? That's what I'm confused about. Is the drama over? Me hope so. All I'm saying is like, I really feel like in the grand scheme of things, when not me and Fed were flirty or should have been or shouldn't have been or whatever, it's like, it's just not that important, in my opinion. Do you guys remember what triggered this whole manifesto? This whole incident? Something completely unrelated. So again, I'm sorry. It's not that I'm trying to like intentionally be vague or pretend like I did nothing wrong. It's just like, it's just a personal situation. I didn't handle it perfectly and he didn't either. And that's really just that. That's really just that. And I feel like further like reading into every word isn't going to make a difference. Also, people keep bringing up the sleepovers. I don't know if you guys remember, but Fed slept in like everybody's room. That was like an active meme. He slept in Yvonne's room. He slept in Lily's room. He slept in all the girls' rooms, which we later find out probably wasn't the best thing. But when you're in that situation, you're like, oh, well, like, I guess this seems normal. Like, nothing's really happening. So it like becomes normal. And I really dislike that you guys are trying to hold that against me when like, he slept in all the girls' rooms. So I guess we all thought, well, it's normal. It's what friends do. So yeah, it was complicated. I don't really see what else you guys would like me to discuss in regards to that. Mind your own business. True. Also, I'm so sorry if at any point my tone was off or anything like that. Again, I haven't slept in 30 whatever hours. And I haven't eaten in a while. So I am not in the best state. But I hope that this provided some much needed clarity. The TLDR is essentially like shit between me and Fed. We both fucked up and we're both the F over it, really. So we hope that you guys can be too. And everything else is up to you guys to judge, because he put his side there, I put mine, and I just ask you guys be reasonable, respectful, and try to perhaps compare it to situations in your life, you know? Again, even Fed knows, like, I never tried to lead him on. Like, there was just a point in time where we flirted, and there were many a point in times where we didn't, and there were a point in times where perhaps he took some of the things that I said as flirting when I didn't mean it that way. And you want to know what? That's life, okay? That is just situations with other humans sometimes. You said that you didn't leave the house because of anyone in your room tour video, but now you're saying that you left because of tension between him and you. Yeah, I specifically remember talking about my room tour and being like, there's no issues, but like, that's just what you do because you love the company you're at and you don't want to cause problems. That's it. What, you wanted me to get up on my room tour and be like, well, listen here, bitches, this is what happened, and this guy said this about, like, I'm just not. I think those are like one of the few rare instances where, like, in my mind, it's not lying. It's just like, I don't want to air dirty laundry. Like, no. If it needs to be out there, probably will someday, but like, no. I was really trying to avoid all that. Again, his story, my story, and the truth is probably somewhere in between. And you guys are welcome to, you know, choose, or like, maybe believe one side more than the other, or don't, or just be like, hey, this isn't even worth any brain power. You guys are welcome to do whatever. Just please be respectful towards people, regardless of what you believe.
So that's about it for Pokimane's stream response. After that stream ended, she tweeted out, "Sorry, today was tough. It's very hard for me to reply to very private things without making the situation messier. Plus, I was not in a good headspace. Thank you to those that were understanding. Looking forward to moving on." Suki responds to Poki's tweet by saying, "You definitely got railed in bed by another guy, Omega lol." Francisco responds to her by saying, "Fed's a child, bruh, for even making that Google Doc. Handle it like an adult and move on." This Rev responds, "Yeah, just let some famous bitch lie about him for the entire internet and be judged as a manipulative bad guy. Take it like a man, Fed." Emma responds, "Fed sexually harasses multiple girls and manipulates said girls. Even tried to get one of them fired. You. Oh no, ooh, he is being judged, oh no, ooh. Exodus responds, "Read the doc, simp. This rich little shit got away with everything. And she acted like she was a victim of Fed when she led him on? Like, what the fuck?" With proof. Fed is actually being an adult and sharing his side of the story, and is actually improving as a human by seeking a therapist. Meatball Soup responds to Poki by saying, "You did my boy Fed dirty." Iggy Zoon responds by saying, "Huh? Even if we were to exclude Poki's story of him, that doesn't suddenly erase all of the others. Fed was a predatory piece of trash, but at least he's trying to change, I guess." Drade in response to Poki by saying, "Well, Fed didn't intend to manipulate just friends. The objective reality is that that was the outcome of his actions. Similarly, while Poki may have not intended to string Fed along, the objective reality is that was the outcome of her actions." Dan responds to him by saying, "Ah yes, she didn't mean to tell him her bedroom door is open, or tell him whether or not he can hear her jerking it off." Yvonne responds to Poki with 2 heart emojis. ZF responds to Yvonne by saying, "What the fuck? Stand up for yourself, Yvonne." Drake the dumbass responds to Yvonne by saying, "Yvonne, how can you tolerate Pokimane's actions? She literally hated the idea of you becoming your own streamer. I know that you two are friends, but seriously try and see all the wrong she is doing right now." T-Gun's responds to Yvonne by saying, "Laughing my ass off. Imagine taking shit from Pokimane and not doing anything because she's popular." Simran responds, "Money over friends." Bro Mordecai responds to Yvonne by saying, "Destiny was right. Everyone is too afraid." Nicholas Diorio responds to Poki by saying, "I was not in a good headspace, I was not in a good headspace, I was not in a good headspace, I was not in a..." Matt Jarbo responds to this by saying, "Hey Pokimane, take it from me. This is not a good excuse. Take the L and get help." Kavos responds to Poki by saying, "It was at this moment she knew." Pokimane belongs to the streets. Man, Pokimane is lying through her teeth on this stream, and consistently changing the narrative. If my channel didn't have a strike, my video on this would be live right now. Light Pulse says, "Reading 25 pages of FedMyster Pokimane drama versus reading 25 pages of any book ever published," showing the icon for clarity and exhaust. Twoon says, "Funniest comment regarding this Pokimane stuff, laughing my ass off," showing a YouTube comment that says, "Somewhere in $1 million house. Leafy is laughing." Number 1 Poppy hater says, "Pokimane when the Fed doc got leaked." Elvis the Alien says, "Pokimane? More like manipulate everyone main. Got him." Sarah says, "Nah, hold on. Pokimane texting like this?" Showing the text she made that says, "Fed. Quick question." Riot Cassidy says, "Pokimane waking up to the leaked FedMyster doc." Lan Kapu says, "This explains the FedMyster and Pokimane leak thing perfectly."
I'm really into you. I just can't be with you right now.
Jake Lucky says, "Quick take. This doesn't right any of FedMyster's past wrongs. Just makes Pokimane look worse being misleading, disingenuous, and potentially manipulative. Bad look for offline TV." The Quartering says, "I get why FedMyster drank. I imagine hearing the girl you were in love with getting her guts crushed in through the wall in the next room likely takes a toll." Pokimane, "Hey Fed, my bedroom door is always open. If you know what I mean, winky face." Fed, "Oh dang." Pokimane 2 months later, "Fed is a predator and a monster, and he should be stopped. I never gave him any indication I was interested in him. Pokimane is not a good human." Tiff says, "Pokimane flirts and types like this. What a joke, laughing my fucking ass off." Showing some of the text from the document. I Will Dominate says, "People actually gaslighted me into thinking that this Poki Fed drama was some crazy shit, but it's actually so boring and uneventful. Yeah, having your cringe text from your early 20s out in the public would be embarrassing, but honestly, who gives a fuck about any of this?" Your fellow Arab says, so Pokimane would tell FedMyster she was masturbating to him, but he was in the wrong for thinking she liked him? Laughing my ass off, can't be with the internet, bro. Tuwisha says, so you're telling me Pokimane invited Fed to sleep in her bed, among other things, and told him the door was always open, just to turn face and out him for being a predator a few months later? Right, another W for women in gaming. NBA Young Cho'Gath says, we've all had a Pokimane type girl in our lives, where the girl likes you but doesn't want to commit, but wants to keep you around as the second option, but keeps her distance, and when you try to move on, she hints at being together, but will never go through with it, leaving you in an endless cycle. Snacky says, hearing your crush get her guts rearranged in the other room. Average Harry says, Pokimane has been exposed for fisting herself. 2020 keeps getting weirder and weirder. Humphrey says, Fed when he was listening to Pokimane getting fucked in the room next to his.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
ASYC says, hey, just finished reading through the Poki and Fed drama. The entire situation kind of reminds me of how we used to be together, and the silly things we used to do. I really wish we could have kept going and fixed what made us separate. Text me when you can, maybe we can start over. Showing a picture of a guy on a train deep into his phone. Young Crip says, honestly, this year I'm pretty grateful for Pokimane getting fisted. 2 fingers? More like 5 fingers. John Swan tweets out, 2 fingers? More like fist. Turkey Tom says, why does Pokimane always come across like she's full of shit, lol? She's so disingenuous. Pokimane says, yeah, we flirted. Meanwhile, she's talking about fucking fisting herself to this dude. Lol, she really did belong to the streets. Pokimane and FedMyster were sexting while in the same house. This woman was talking about fisting herself in the room while he was trying to come inside and fuck her. And she would not let him. I do not fucking understand. Embrace Lego. Reject female. Harris Heller says, great minds talk about ideas. Average minds talk about events. Weak minds talk about people. Stop involving yourself in internet drama. This whole Poki and Fed thing shouldn't be all over my feed. Let them handle it themselves. Mudahar says, this offline TV leaked document is the reason I stay away from the YouTuber house. You can't mix personal relationships and business together this hard. It always comes to fuck you later. Justin Wang tweets out, I'm not reading the whole Pokimane thing, piecing it together from the timeline. Is this an accurate summary? He then shows a picture of a guy getting cucked. Keemstar says, Pokimane is not a good person. Pokimane lied she was never romantic with him. She told everyone that Fed was trying to get people kicked out of the offline TV house. Leaked text proved both are false. They were dating and Poki was talking shit, trying to get people kicked. Fed was defending roommates. He then posts a Twitter video titled, Pokimane and FedMyster.
This whole FedMyster thing just makes me so angry. It really bothers me. You know, when I was in my 20s, like, I had this awesome friend group of guys and girls. We all hung out. We were all friends. We were all homies. We would party or whatnot. And sometimes people get wasted, guys and girls, and they get too touchy-feely with their friends, all right? Sometimes things were said that were just, like, uncalled for, too far. But there was always this, like, he's wasted or she's wasted, right? We need to take care of our friend. They are wasted. It was never like, oh, he put his arm around me when he was wasted. I'm going to go get him fired from his job. That's insanity. But that's exactly what happened with offline TV. FedMyster got wasted one night, jumped in one of his friends' beds. And again, they were in each other's rooms hanging out all the time. But he jumped in bed with one of them and he kissed the girl's hand, all right? And she didn't say, get off me. She didn't say, stop. She didn't say, this is making me feel uncomfortable. In fact, she said absolutely nothing for months until there was a Me Too movement. And then she came out and put a statement. The first time she said anything was to millions of people, which resulted in getting her friend's entire life destroyed, his career gone for kissing her hand. That doesn't sit right with me. That's supposed to be your friend. You know, that does not sit right with me. The punishment isn't even remotely equal to the crime. On top of it, when that came out, Pokimane went out of her way to distance herself. She said that FedMyster and her were never dating. She also said that FedMyster was being manipulative and trying to get people kicked out of the house. But now FedMyster has come out, proven without a shadow of a doubt through text messages that him and Pokimane were in fact dating. And that Pokimane herself was trying to get other members kicked out, and FedMyster, it proves in the text conversation, was defending his roommates. You're all scumbags for this. Horrible friends, evil people, jealous.
Keemstar then shows an old tweet from Pokimane that says, "It's insane how the best of people can turn out to be massive snakes." Keemstar captions that by saying, "It's really not that insane. All you fake motherfuckers can only fool children and simps." Chi Woody responds to Keem by saying, "Dude, stop fucking hating on Poki. If you keep hating on her, she'll not like you. And if you ask her out, she'll reject you." Keemstar responds by saying, "Her fans are actually this stupid. I can't even tell if this is a joke or not." And that's about it for the drama with Pokimane on Twitter. Until Pokimane decided to make another response to the controversy. This time in the form of a Google document just like Fed. Although this time it's 11 pages, not 25, so it won't be nearly as long. Either way, let's get into it. She posts it on her second Twitter account and it's titled, Re-Fed. It starts out with her saying, Intro. I've talked about my experience with Fed in the past, and I'm really disappointed that leaked and misleading messages made it necessary for me to respond once again. I feel forced to share my side of the story, now with evidence and context, to hopefully close this chapter once and for all. Knowing how much it hurts to have private convos leaked, I didn't want to have it to come to sharing more info that is also private to Fed and my friends involved. Out of respect to their privacy, I'll only be talking about some things that were already shared, and what my friends are comfortable with. The leak. I found out about this document weeks ago because one of Fed's viewers DM'd one of the offline TV members with a link to it, technically a prior version to it. There was no update at the bottom, and certain private texts were not in the document I saw. I was horrified that a viewer of his had such private messages of mine, and I immediately contacted Fed. We spent a couple days talking things through and coming to an understanding on how to handle things. I also informed him how the document was shared with me, so he was well aware of the specific person who was doing this. Over the next few weeks, I would have my close friends and other streamers message me and tell me they were also sent this document, sometimes from Fed, sometimes from Fed's viewer. Every time my privacy was further violated, I would tell Fed and he would tell me he'd speak to his viewer and have the Google Docs deleted. It kept happening multiple times afterwards, making it hard for me to believe that he didn't want this to be shared. Yvonne/Offline TV. I'd like to give context to the messages he included of me talking about Yvonne, since the leaked document attempts to imply that I was plotting against her when this was not the case at all. I'm really disappointed that he would try to publicly pit us against each other, especially since he knows us personally and the reality of the situation, on top of what he's already put Yvonne through. This situation is also heavily impacted by the fact that Fed touched Yvonne inappropriately, which is something that the offline TV members weren't aware of until later. Please keep this in mind when reading screenshots involving other house members, because they didn't know and have done everything in their power to help Yvonne since they found out. Because I was so close to Fed, he would rant or vent to me about others a lot. Yvonne was a sore topic for him, where he would continuously complain about her. He would complain that he was taking on her workload, and that she would deny his attempts to get her to do work on offline TV, and stream instead. Looking back on this now, no one can blame Yvonne for wanting to avoid him, but no one knew what Fed did at the time. I've included an example of this below. She then shows screenshots between her and Fed. It starts out with FedMyster saying, goes into Yvonne's room. Yo, let's think of a prank/content idea since Lily I'll be out. Immediately gets into a game of League, smiley face. Poki responds with an annoyed face. Fed responds by saying, I leave and she says, hey, you gonna think of something, right? Yeah. Poki responds with a disappointed face and says, tell her what you think. Fed responds, alright, I'll do that now. Wow, I was surprised. I asked her when her game was done if she could come upstairs and brainstorm offline TV stuff. She gave me this face. I want to keep playing. I gave her a long stare, then just walked out. I don't know. Fed then sends a picture of him behind a whiteboard and says, I'm out here whiteboarding shit. Poki responds, sad face, I'll join you when I get kicked. You should tell her it's kind of part of her job though. Fed responds, you know I hate confrontation. It's fine though. When you think about it, I don't realistically think she can contribute much, but it's nice to have a human around. Poki continues her document by saying, these texts were from May 25th, 2019, whereas Fed has shared screenshots of things I parroted about Yvonne months later on October 5th, 2019. I was not the only person that Fed would vent to about Yvonne, although I repeatedly heard the same thing from him throughout those months. He would also go to the other house members to complain multiple times over, which ultimately led to the point of offline TV having a meeting to discuss everything. The below texts were after the meeting, and showcased that this topic stemmed from Fed bringing up issues about Yvonne. The messages are from October 1st, 2019, and it starts out with Fed saying, lol, I talked to Toast before the meeting, and we agreed that we should only bring up Yvonne thing if we really considered a new third roommate, but I'm kinda glad. Poki responds, oh, I didn't know. Plus it kinda came up in an okay way, I think. Fed responds, you guys segmented into that. Poki responds, my bad, yee. Fed responds, no, I'm actually glad. Poki responds, I was like, why isn't Fed bringing it up? Lol. Fed responds, haha, yeah, it was probably better this way. To be honest, if it came from me, she would feel, I don't know, different because of our relationship. But all good. Cat's out of the bag. Poki responds, makes sense. It did come up pretty organically. I was surprised Skara had so much to say. Fed responds, I think I talked about it with Skara, the most, out of everyone. Poki responds, whoa, I had no clue. Poki then adds a note saying that Fed complained to other offline TV members about Yvonne, connecting it to the message where he says he talked with Skara. Poki continues her document by saying, as you can see, there were also other members of offline TV that were speaking up on behalf of Fed, as it was genuinely because we were under the impression from Fed that there was a problem that needed fixing. At this point in time, no one else in the offline TV house had context that Fed had touched her inappropriately. There are also a different set of texts which show my concern for the lack of work being put into offline TV during the beginning of quarantine. At that time, everyone in the house, including Fed, content lead, and Yvonne, house manager, was very focused on streaming, and I was worried offline TV was being left on the back burner. To contextualize my concerns, offline TV has a history of hiring core employees that later became content creators. Fed, Chris/Pika, Edison, etc. And I'm genuinely happy for the people who are inspired to create content and are successful. For the overall sake of the offline TV company, these are important roles that need dedication in order for the overall group to function and be consistent. This is why I was worried this issue would repeat itself to the point where Yvonne would no longer want to work at offline TV. In Fed's document, he claims he told me what happened between them. But Fed also told Yvonne, and Yvonne shared this in her statement in Dr. K Talk, that he didn't remember what happened. I want to make it clear I did not have full awareness of what Fed did to Yvonne during any of the text/incidents shown. It was briefly mentioned to me in late 2019. First by Yvonne, then by Fed, that there was an uncomfortable incident that happened between them, but no details were shared with me. I had no clue of the severity or extent of the situation until much later. I learned of the full situation when she publicly spoke to Dr. K, and privately in a heartfelt talk with our girlfriends. In my initial stream discussing Fed, I was extremely frustrated because I had just found out what fully happened to Yvonne. And to think back to the times he complained to me about her, and I blindly believed him, made me livid. The same complaints that almost caused her to be let go from offline TV. Even more so than that, I'm frustrated with myself for not speaking to Yvonne and understanding her earlier. Given the context that I now have of what Fed had done to her, of course, I would have never said those things or wanted her fired. Anyone in her position would have reacted the same way in an attempt to avoid someone who has touched them inappropriately. Since then, Yvonne and I talked privately about what I've said, and came to a relieving understanding after an apology from my end. I regret the added stress we put her through. I'm so sorry to both Yvonne and anyone who read my messages with Fed, who may have questioned her or her work ethic. I hired Yvonne to work with me back in 2018, knowing that she was smart, thoughtful, and an overall pleasure to work with. I then personally recommended her for an in-house position at Offline TV, and was looking forward to working with her in person. She has grown into her role at Offline TV, and as a content creator as well, and I'm really grateful for her and everything she's done for us. Fed. Fed was my closest friend for a long time. During the Offline TV Taiwan trip in February 2018, we became closer and considered pursuing a relationship. This is where a lot of the flirty texts shown in Fed's document are from. A couple months later, after he visited me in Canada, and when we traveled back home together, I told him I didn't want to be more than friends, around May 2018. Weeks later, Offline TV held a party where I expressed interest in meeting a specific person, later referred to as Steve. After the party, Steve confided in me that Fed told him that Fed and I currently had a thing, and asked Fed to not tell anyone. This really upset me and felt like a massive breach of trust, especially since it happened after I told Fed that I only wanted to be friends. I confronted Fed about this immediately, and he apologized. Also, prior to my stream where I spoke about Yvonne and Lily's situations with Fed, I messaged him to give him a heads up, and he specifically asked me to not bring it up to the public. He also admitted to this mistake when speaking to my best friend Janet after the intervention. She then shows text messages to back that up. The first one is from Pokimane, who says, "Thanks, I really appreciate that. Is there anything that you would really want me to leave out? I don't know if I can accommodate, but I also don't want to make things terribly difficult for you. I won't mention the blank super personal details, mainly some lies and inconsistencies where people felt manipulated." Fed responds, "If you could find it in you to leave out telling blank that you and we were a thing, it's something I would just not like mentioned. But I understand if not. Otherwise, I trust you. And I think doing what's best for Lily and Yvonne's comfort is the right play." Poki responds, "I'm I'm sorry, I can't leave that out, because it's the best / easiest example I can give of lying. The next set of DMs shown are from Poki's friend Janet. It starts out with her saying, "Hi Fed, yeah, a little bit. Don't know the details, just that there was an intervention. How are you doing?" And he said, "Well, pretty bad. Got a minute to talk? I can give you all the details." So then we called, and he told me about what I thought was everything. He told me about him and the Steve situation with you. He said he lied a lot. Poki then adds a little note that says, he admitted to Janet that he lied to Steve. Continuing on with Pokimane's document, she says, "This is why it's so difficult for me to believe him when he just now, years after the incident, and months after it became public, attempts to deny it. Fed has been known to be a serial flirt. This was brought up several times in an intervention we held for Fed, where several girls in our close friend circle spoke on situations where he crossed boundaries, or made them uncomfortable. The girls at the intervention were all okay with this info being shared. For a long time, we all thought his flirtatious tendencies were just an innocent and natural part of who he was. I admit and take responsibility for the times I later reciprocated, and the ways in which this could have complicated our friendship. I would also consistently hear of the ways in which he flirted with other girls, and his ships, and often saw it on his stream as well, which made any reciprocations feel casual and insignificant. It may have been naive, but it was far from how he's attempting to portray me. I tried to be transparent about who I was seeing, in a conscious effort to be open, and not to lead him on, which I now realize struck Fed as hurtful. I understand it must be tough to move on from someone you live with, but I figured it was better that I was upfront, and to hear it directly from me instead of hiding it, especially since I would frequently hear of, and witness him flirting with and pursuing other girls, even my close friends. Fed also had a habit of sleeping in the girls' beds, Lily's, Yvonne's, and mine. Offline TV viewers might remember this because it was something we all spoke of as an odd habit, and we thought the sleepovers were strange, but harmless and just for fun. Fed clearly enjoyed the comfort and intimacy he could find in his friendships with many girls, and I was no exception. Unfortunately, he also had a habit of pushing the boundary not only with me, but with other girls as well, which was difficult for us to properly manage while considering the larger friendship circle and dynamic. Our friendship was complicated and confusing, and there were times we unintentionally hurt each other. Would it have been possible to cut things off completely? Fed was my closest friend at the time, my roommate, and my co-worker / talent at Offline TV. Anytime I tried to reinforce that I just wanted to be friends, we were always in the same vicinity and he would attempt to flirt and push that boundary again. There was massive pressure and encouragement for us to interact with each other on camera, streams, and vlogs. We'd also had several convos both in real life and over text, pertaining to the complications of our friendship. It wasn't just a one-sided issue. Over time, I learned how to properly draw that boundary, and these issues slowly became less frequent. Fed included messages of hotel room discussions that were misleading and taken out of context. To clarify, a few of us wound up in Vegas at the same time around December 6, 2018. I was there for a sponsored event with Lily, while Fed and some other friends were there separately for fun. I messaged him and told him we, plural as in myself and the girls, had a hotel room. I wanted for us to all stay together in his much larger room for fun, unless he wanted to stay alone so he could be at the liberty to bring any girl home with him. So all four of us, me, Lily, Fed, Yvonne, stayed together in Fed's room for the entirety of the Vegas trip. To reiterate, Fed and I never stayed alone. There's photo plus video proof of this, and this interaction was not meant to be romantic or suggestive, nor did anything happen between us. If anything, I feel it shows that I was encouraging him to see other people, and wanted to make sure I gave him enough space to comfortably do so. Referencing the text where I say, "But I can also stay in mine because, you know." Poki then shows the text between her and Fed that was shown in FedMyster's document, but this time with some added commentary. The text started out with Pokimane saying, "Okay, so we got a hotel, but I can still stay in yours. But also, I can stay in mine because, you know, if you don't respond, then I'ma go home." She points out that the we is her and Lily, and then she points out that her mentioning that she can stay in her hotel is referencing that she's good to stay in the other room if he needs privacy to bring someone back to his room. Fed responds, "Mine," smiley face, to which Poki responds, "You sure? I really want to give you the freedom to do what you want." Poki captions this by saying, again, not wanting to get in the way of him bringing back other girls. Poki continues in the text by saying, "It's no worries, we have 2 beds at the other room." We, of course, referring to her and Lily. Fed responds, "Yes." Poki responds, "Beg for me to stay with you." I joke. KK, I'll come over for sure. Poki points out that joke was cringe. Fed responds, "Yes, I'm sure," to which Poki says, "Okay, say it again." And then Fed responds, "Yes, please stay with me." And then Poki also shows an image from that same trip where she is with Lily and Yvonne. She then says Fed wasn't in this group shot, but Yvonne and Lily can also confirm that we all collectively stayed together in his hotel room for this trip. It's extremely frustrating to see so many private and old incidents misrepresented to intentionally favor him. It's also difficult to properly show my perspective without further invading Fed's privacy or other girls' privacy. I hope that everyone reading this can try to be understanding of that. In summary, I hear a lot of hurt feelings in Fed's statement when it comes to our friendship. I cared about Fed a lot, and wouldn't have wanted to hurt him. His feelings are valid, and a good reminder to me that what one person thinks may be going on in a friendship doesn't always match up with the other person's expectations. Looking back, I would have done a lot of things differently, and I know for a fact that neither of us handled the situation perfectly. However, our private convos heavily lacked context, and I'm not okay with how they are being misrepresented. Jody. The way Fed framed my conversation with him regarding Jody is extremely one-sided. This is something that Jody and I talked about privately weeks ago, where I've owned up to and apologized for the messages. Looking back at these texts, I'm ashamed that I wrote them, and I feel terrible about the things I've said. The two pieces of context I'd like to provide are that 1. Earlier that day I was under the impression that they were going on a date, and I was being supportive. And 2. The things I said about Jody are essentially parroting Fed's opinion of her, which he also shared with me earlier that day. They were also a result of my perception of her being skewed and negative because of the info he gave me about how he felt exploited by her, and my poor choice to believe a rumor. Below I've included the conversation I had with Fed prior to what I said about Jody for more context. Please note that some of the text/names have been removed out of respect for my friend's privacy. Some text messages have been blocked in order to not rehash unnecessary drama. That has been resolved and is unrelated to me. The texts start out with Poki saying, "Also, let me know how your date with Jody goes." Fed responds, "Geez, this year has been unreal for you." Haha, not going on any date with her, lol. Poki responds, "Oh, stop. You'd be down if she was in town. Just let me know how it goes. I like the stories." Fed responds, "Okay, sure, we'll let you know." Poki responds, "I like the honesty." Fed responds, "No, but for real, not remotely interested in her. In all honesty. Me, Leslie, and Yvonne talked about this. I feel hella exploited. And when we hang out in, let's say, Minecraft, she ignores Leslie and all the girls. Big yikes." Poki responds, "Huh? That doesn't sound normal. Isn't she really close with Leslie?" Fed responds, "You can really tell she's trying to push the Fody thing, poop emoji. And according to Leslie, not no note." And then he corrects it to more. I don't know which part of the message is corrected to more, but regardless, the conversation continues by Fed saying, "Lots of bad drama." Poki responds, "What?" Fed responds, "So like," Poki says, "What kind of drama?" And then all of the drama is redacted. Poki responds, "Aw," followed by more redacted messages, and then she says, "Maybe she's not the most considerate person. But also, you saying shit like, let's talk about going on a date, if that's not really how you feel, is a bit hypocritical because of course, that pushes the Fody thing." Fed responds, "Then with the Minecraft stuff, Leslie refuses to play with her now. We all think trying to push the Fody thing for views. And it's so obvious when we are all hanging out, and she's memeing crazy tongue out emojis, and everyone else feels hella left out." Poki then responds, but most of the messages are cut out. Fed responds by saying, "Yeah." Poki responds, "But I guess long term it'll show that they aren't friends anymore." Wow, my brain boom. Fed responds, "It's pretty bad. Had a group call with blank about it all. Must protect my friend's feelings. I think I'm forgetting other stuff she did too. What time yo think today, by the way?" Poki responds, 4 to 6 I believe, and I feel ya. I never would have guessed. Poki continues in the document by saying, "He told me much more, but I felt there's no use sharing more texts of past drama, and I want to avoid doing so out of privacy and respect for my friends. The conversation ended with me being very surprised, last text shown, and my perspective of Jody being very skewed and negative out of concern for Fed, saying he felt exploited. Furthermore, as the morning texts show, I was trying to be supportive and foster a friendship where we could be more open with each other and be able to talk about the people we are seeing. Later that same day, I heard Jody speaking about Fed on her stream, and having heard all these negative things about her from him, I had a very skewed perception of everything she said. Here is his reply he intentionally left out of the screenshot, showcasing this wasn't a one-sided exchange and that he was encouraging it. She then shows the text that Fed showed in his document where he claimed Poki was being jealous of Jody, but now with the added context of Fed replying, "Ha ha ha, please continue. I love it. Ha ha ha." And then she shows proof that the conversation of Fed saying he was exploited and the text messages of Poki talking shit about Jody happened on the exact same day. Poki continues the document by saying, "This was a very familiar pattern for Fed that I and many other friends spoke out about. It's something I specifically called him out for in my first stream, and directly to him at the intervention. He would spread doubt and rumors, egging people on to think negatively of each other and dividing people up. I don't know if this was intentional, but it kept others apart and Fed as their main confidant." She then shows a stream clip of people talking about Fed as an example.
"Come to our house all the time, always in a bad mood, and it was always because it was like, oh, Fed's over. stuff with Poki or OTV is like not good right now. Like that was it. He would run away. He would run away constantly. And then while he's there, he's like just spreading bad vibes about OTV, which would slowly start to push us away from them. I'd start to have these really negative thoughts about Poki. Like I really thought like, wow, like she's driving him crazy, poor guy. Like, man, like, you know, I had all these negative thoughts about her, and I apologized to her directly about like not talking to her in the moment, instead just believing everything Fed was saying, because at the moment Fed is my close friend, you know? And so he and so if you're wondering why a lot of this stuff had to be aired publicly, and it's because that was the only way we'd see Fed change, because we had tried to address things publicly, and instantly with the intervention, he went running to all the people who weren't at the intervention, victimizing himself.
Poki continues the document by saying, I hope the screenshots and added context shows how disingenuous it was of Fed to attempt to frame this conversation as me being possessive of him. Regardless, I really regret having spoken of Jody in this way, and I'm so happy that we were able to work through it. It also taught me a valuable lesson in not only who to trust, but taking opinions with a grain of salt. She then links to a new Google document of Jody's experience with Fed, but don't worry, this Google Doc is not nearly as long as both Fed's and Poki's. In fact, it's only about 2 pages long. It starts out with Jody saying, to give some backstory, there was a bit of drama during the first initial Minecraft server that I am now learning the entirety of because of the doc leak, which actually clears some things up for me as well. The drama stemmed from a ship being formed between me and Fed, Fody, and how shipping inevitably excludes people. I wasn't aware at the time of how shipping in general had created past drama in this friend group, and thought nothing of it as Fed and I began creating Fody content. From a lot of the girls' point of view, I was probably being selfish, inconsiderate, and clout climby. To give my perspective, I was a newer streamer who had just started gaining traction, and didn't really understand streamer etiquette. Nonetheless, I still fucked up, but I remember reaching out to Fed because I started to feel uneasy about Fody content. The convo went something like this. I said, hi Fed, how do you feel about Fody? Fed replied and said something along the lines of, oh, it's just content, whatever. This convo was so long ago that I don't remember exactly what I said, and I deleted our Twitter DMs when Ray's Twitter got hacked. I went through most of my DMs and deleted the ones with addresses, phone numbers, etc. But I 100% know we had this conversation, where I wanted to make sure that he was comfortable and that everything was okay, and he never said otherwise. I remember looking to Fed during this situation, because I wasn't comfortable reaching out to any of the other streamers in this circle of friends, and Fed was the one that initially reached out to me. I didn't reach out to others because I didn't want to come off as clout climby, and so I would never message anyone and ask them to play games, or how they were doing. In hindsight, I now know better and completely understand how my actions were perceived the way that they were, but it didn't help my situation when I looked to Fed for guidance and he answered so nonchalantly, while knowing how Fody made others feel. So you can imagine my surprise when I see the text exchange between Yvonne and Fed, where Fed is talking poorly about my character, saying he feels exploited for views. Fed was the one guy who would consistently reach out to me and who I felt comfortable doing the same with. He would call me all the time on stream, and we would play games together, and ironically, he was the one reassuring me about the Fody/Minecraft drama situation. I remember we met at Starbucks once I moved to California, and I told him how much guilt I still felt, and how it's hard to approach the others because I didn't want them to think I'm using them. His response was, Jody, you are not an unlikable person, just be around more and they'll get to know you. Referring back to the screenshotted texts, Fed talks about how he tried to come up with a neutral response to me asking him on a date, a prompt made by my community for marbles. This is where he states I exploited him for views. Now reading back on these texts, I know wholeheartedly that Fed was just lying because 1. Fed was a well-known popular streamer and I was a nobody. He could have just cut me out and no one would blink twice. 2. It didn't make sense for Fed to be constantly messaging me, playing games with me, or calling me on stream, and inviting me to events/parties if he had felt like I was exploiting him for views. Okay. So let's talk about the text where Iman is telling Fed about me and my behavior from one of my drinking streams. At this point, Iman has not met me yet. She only knows me from what Fed has been telling her. While reading these words really did hurt my feelings, Iman and I had resolved all issues prior to the doc leak, as she approached me months ago to talk. In our conversation, Iman was very honest and apologetic. I can understand why she viewed me this way in the past given Fed's portrayal of me to her. I hadn't spoken up about the Fed situation before because I didn't think he had personally done anything to me, but I still went to the intervention to support the others. Now I know that Fed was part of the reason why issues had taken so long to be resolved, and why I continue to be portrayed differently to others than I intended. Thanks for coming to my Fed talk. Jody. Pokimane then ends off her document by saying, ultimately, my complicated and volatile relationship with Fed had no part in why he was kicked out of offline TV, and such private details never needed to be public. It has been extremely jarring to have my privacy violated by someone I trusted for so long. Out of respect to my friends who are mentioned in these convos, they were all shown the text and of course given the option to decline any convos from being included. If any parts of the convos were blocked, I have done so to maintain privacy for them and will not disclose that info. I hope this context shows my side of the story and helps put this to rest. Note, this is posted to my alt account because so much personal info has already been shared. I would like to clarify my side of the story and not bring additional attention to these past issues. I know many other people will probably cover what happened, but I'll be doing what I can to prevent personal matters from going public again, and that is about it for Pokimane's document. Definitely puts Fed in a much more negative light. I mean, he directly lied to us and cut out context of his conversation he had with Pokimane regarding Jody. I find that very scummy. But anyways, a new Google document came out from the person who leaked the Google document made by FedMyster on Pokimane. It's fittingly titled in all caps, I leaked Fed's doc about Poki. It starts off by saying, proof and more leaks. The word proof links to an image proving that this person did indeed have access to Fed's document before it released, and more leaks links to a bunch of DMs between this person and FedMyster. Reading them in chronological order, the first one comes from July 1st, 2020, and it starts out with Fed saying, hey man, just letting you know, I'm disconnecting from all social media. They respond, even here? Fed responds, yeah. They respond, fuck. I really wanted to help be there for you. Fed then sends his phone number and says, if you text, but I'm trying to move forward. Not think about everything right now. The next messages are from July 19th and it starts out with Fed saying, right now I'm just focusing on myself. I have therapy 3 times a week. I journal, podcast, run, think, and in my spare time, I help him. They respond, podcast. Fed responds, listen to podcasts about people overcoming. They respond, ah. Fed responds, massive adversities. They respond, take therapy seriously, 100% honest. Fed responds, yeah, I just let it all out. The next messages are from July 24th, and it starts out with the leaker saying, was Lily aware Poki had unfollowed her? I have to say, man, I'm sorry I said, I don't know what you ever saw in her. That's me playing Monday morning quarterback. Fed responds, no, I haven't said anything. I feel like if I said anything, it would look bad on me. They respond, I don't know. Fed responds, like, why is Fed looking at that? They respond, true. Fed responds, he should be focusing on himself, kinda deal. They respond, also true. Fed responds, she unfollowed her just on Twitch? The next set of DMs are from July 31st, 2020, and it starts out with the person saying, 1 month done. Good progress this month. You have already learned so much. Bruh, I'm sorry. Your cousin is fine. Fed then responds on the 1st of August by saying, has it really been 1 month? They respond, yep. Fed says, wait, Tiffany? Damn, this guy's trying to slide in. I wonder why he kept that in this document. Either way, the next messages are from August 9th, 2020, and starts out with Fed saying, I don't know, man. We both had our issues. I'm not good at identifying hers, let alone mine. She's out of my life now. They respond, you were amplified by her, to which Fed responds, to some degree. The next messages are from August 15th, 2020, and it starts out with Fed saying, tomorrow maybe I will start writing something. They respond, fair. Fed responds, I've decided to make it, but unsure if it will release. These next set of messages are also from the 15th of August, and it starts out with Fed saying, she knew about Yvonne and me incident already by this time. They respond, Jesus. Dude, that's all her. Why are you defending yourself to me, and not the world? I already know. Fed responds, I don't know, man. I'm scared. They respond, as you probably should be. But dude, the next messages are from the 16th of August and it starts out with Fed saying, we can agree everything I share here is never shared anywhere unless A, I die, or B, I give consent, right? All past, present, and future stuff? They respond, of course. Oh my god. Considering I'm reading this out and Fed's not dead and he doesn't want this shared is just, wow, dude. Anyway, he says, a few know I talk with you, like 2 people, but that's it. Fed responds, KK, well, what's your email? To which this person responds with their email. Fed then asks, you get it? The next set of DMs are also from the 16th of August, and it starts out with the person saying, she said you were close. Her only friend for a lot. Fed responds, yeah, we were more than close. For sure. They respond, I'm not surprised at all. So why are you showing me, of all people? I know this. Fed responds, "You are basically the only person I talk to about this stuff. I thought you might have wanted to take a look and see if any of it conflicts with things she has said." They respond, "You want me to save them and set aside? I'll definitely be looking through a lot of it. Not sure how much is there, but a lot." Fed responds, "There are 44 pics." They respond, "Ah, okay," and then redact a message. Fed then responds, but the leaker redacted his message. But the next thing he says is, "I'm writing everything though." The leaker then asks, "I have a question that I'm not sure of." Fed responds, "Okay." The leaker responds, "If some of offline TV knew about you and her, and Lily even knew how Poki was looking to get Yvonne out, why do they sit by and watch her lie about stuff with the clear intention of hurting you more and helping herself?" Fed responds, "Sheep mentality. Once a building is falling or a ball is rolling, it's hard to stop, especially if it's Poki rolling the ball. People are scared to contest her. That's always been the case, especially with Yvonne and Lily." The next messages are from October 15th, and it starts out with the leaker saying, "Anyway, update me when you can." Fed responds, "Holy fuck. I actually can't believe you did that, by the way." They respond, "Dude, I'm sorry. I did it for you." Fed responds, "You had no right." "Nah, you did it for yourself." They respond, "No," to which Fed responds, "You know this would hurt me." They respond, "No way. Why would it?" And it didn't. "I did it for you." Later that day, the leaker says, "What happened?" To which Fed responds, "Have you deleted everything?" They respond, "Yes, week ago. Can you forgive me?" He then shows messages from a day later on the 16th of October. It starts out with Fed saying, "I take matters into my own hands. Like I said, you had no right. There is no justification here, so stop trying." The leaker responds, "I'm so sorry, man. I don't deserve any forgiveness. You are 100% right. I don't know why I did it. I had a moment of weakness." Fed responds, "Just don't do that shit ever again." They respond, "I have learned my lesson. I'm still so mad at myself. To be honest, I regretted it the moment after I did it. I'm an idiot." The next messages are from November 25th, so the same day the doc leaked to the public. Fed says, "You sent the doc again to someone." They respond, "Check out covering FedMyster statements regarding Poki/Lily, twitch.tv/Destiny." No. Fed responds, "What the fuck? You sent it to fucking Destiny?" And you can tell Fed was furiously typing there because the word fucking is very misspelled. The leaker responds, "I sent it to nobody." Fed responds, "You are fucking lying to me." These next set of messages take place sometime between the 26th and the 28th of November, and it starts out with Fed saying, "I hope you're happy. That's all I gotta say." The leaker responds, "For 5 months you had a goal, a direction, and in 2 phone calls that all changed. Funny that way. And since you asked, yes, I am. I'm happy for you." Now let's go back to the document to see what this leaker has to say. It reads out, "I'll do my best to make this brief. I have been a fan of Fed's for over 3 years, and in that time we had become friends in a private Discord DM. Fed learned he could trust me, and because of this I knew a lot more of the truth of his life outside of streaming. When Fed got cancelled, I gave him my support but also my disappointment, and he apologized for letting me down. We talked a lot about everything. A few days later he told me he was completely disconnecting from all social media, and he gave me his phone number, and said I could text now and then, but he was really trying to let everything go right now. I respected that and maybe texted him 2 to 3 times over the next few weeks. Mainly just words of encouragement around staying sober, because I had experience with this subject. After traveling and decompressing from the situation he was now in, he started to get caught up on everything that was said about him from his friends. He was shocked. He asked me to give him my word, and I did. And at the time, I 100% meant it. He was trusting me. He started to share things with me. Most of the text from him and Poki did not surprise me. But when he started to show me more, just like Destiny slowly started to see, I started to understand more and more, and I was now also in shock. I started to have sympathy for him, but also started to get angry. To put it lightly, what was shown and discussed in the Poki doc is 30 to 40% of what could have been included. I know 25 pages is a lot, but understand he was coming from a place of complete mistrust by everyone. As time went on, Fed opened a doc and started writing. He let me into the doc and I would help with dates, grammar, and layout, but the words are 100% Fed's. As time passed, he made a few docs. The Poki doc was not the only one. All were written in a form to appear as though they were speaking to the public, but he made them all to give to the specific people they were about, not the public. They were only to show his side of things, with the intention of opening up discussions with them and attempting to move toward healing these friendships that clearly had a lot of misunderstandings with both sides. I'm not here to go over everything that he said in his own words, or point out the obvious. If you have ever been in love with someone, then the Poki doc speaks speaks for itself. I'm writing this because I have seen a lot of speculation, not just from comments, but from streamers and even from Fed's friends. I want to make a few things clear. 1. Fed never had any intention of posting any doc to the public. 2. At no point did he try to mislead or lie in any part of the docs. These were times I would make suggestions, and he would say, no, because that's not the way it happened. I would say, sure, but they had no problem stretching the truth when talking about you. And he would tell me, no, that's not what this is about. 3. When this was leaked, he was furious with me. He went right to our DM and accused me. There was little I could say to him to defend what had been done. He hasn't said a word to me since. I don't want to get too deep into why I decided to do this. I felt strongly that Fed and his issues with Poki were still very much affecting him. All along over the 5 months after he was kicked out, we spoke daily. He had clear intentions. But then he finally contacted her. After 2 to 3 phone calls with Poki, that all changed. I had told myself from day one that I would hold my word to him, but I knew he had one major weakness, and I had hoped that he'd finally let go and moved on. But after those few calls with Poki, his whole mindset completely changed, and it became clear he was going to take the full hit, and she was going to do very little to change the public's opinion of him. That was all based on her one stream about him. Throughout their conversations, 2 things were very clear. 1, Fed was only interested in getting his friends back, and 2, Poki was only interested in protecting her image. I knew he would know it was me. I knew he would be furious with me. I knew he would cut me off as a friend and never speak with me again. But I also knew what I was about to do was the truth, and that I cared more about him and his ability to have a future and less about having him as my Discord buddy. I couldn't sit by and let him drown himself. I felt he wasn't in a healthy mindset, and he was making these decisions because of his issues. Decisions I knew someday, years from now, he would regret. So I leaked it. And that's about it for his little document. As for who actually ended up leaking this, obviously you could tell by the document that he doesn't want you to know. The earliest source of this document being posted publicly that I could find is from a Reddit account called Waterwolf AP, but the Reddit account was created with the express purpose of just posting the document. So it's obviously an alt account and we can't really trace that to anything. Although we do know that the document was created on November 26th, and with how short the document is, having it come out 3 days later doesn't seem like it was planned, but more so that they ended up writing the document, decided not to post it, and then someone ended up leaking it anyway. Or they changed their mind. Either way, it's kind of funny to think that the leaker got his own document leaked as well. Anyways, we are at the tail end of this with the final Google document response from FedMyster. It's titled, Moving Forward. Intro. If you haven't read my last statement regarding all this, please do. I want to start off by addressing comments from friends and other individuals about how they believe I leaked the document myself. This is profoundly false. The individual that went behind my back and leaked my private document to the public made a statement himself, which further corroborates that it was against my wishes. Disclaimer. Don't expect some nuclear document that'll expose everyone and start more silly drama. That was never the goal or purpose from the very start. As you will come to read and understand, my original document was for my own therapy and never intended for the public. I first want to mention I was being very careful with who I shared the document with. I came to trust one of the more dedicated members of my community, just as I have in the past with many people I've come to be close friends with, and even some of them come to help me with my day-to-day business. This person I had put so much trust in would maliciously go behind my back and send individuals parts of the document in hopes for a leak or reaction, with no success. He once again tried when he did not agree with the arrangement I had come to with Poki. As I said in my last statement, this was a violent breach of my trust and against my wishes, as I've been working hard to grow, heal, and move on from everything. To be clear, this document was made as a form of therapy for myself, to address my concerns about the way Poki portrayed me in her stream. All of this has nothing to do with trying to bring up old wounds. I wanted this all to stay private and be handled privately. I can't begin to tell you how stunned I was when I suddenly saw the document on Destiny's stream. I want to move on and move forward just as much as everyone involved. After the leak, Poki and I both agreed to do joint statements. Hers in the form of a stream and mine as a document, where we would both own up and acknowledge our differences and perspectives and then move on. Poki wasn't happy with the way the public received her first stream, and as a result she spent the next few days conjuring up a document of her own. After reading it, she cherry-picked screenshots and attempts to distract the reader from the larger issue I was trying to portray. I'm going to be discussing everything she brought up here. I have never once tried to deny any accusations made to me by Yvonne or Lily. As Poki likes to remind everyone over and over why this is all happening to begin with. I would like to remind her that this has absolutely nothing to do with that at all. What this does have to do with is the misinformation that was being thrown at me by her and her alone. As I said in my most recent statement, I have come to a better understanding of her and why she said some of the things she did. That being said, I still strongly disagree with her careless portrayal of me in front of millions of people. Reworking with Yvonne/Offline TV. She first includes text where I complain about Yvonne's unwillingness to work with me. I never tried to hide this fact, and even directly mentioned it in my original leaked document. He then chose a portion of his original leaked document where he says, I personally never brought up the idea that Yvonne should get kicked out of Offline TV. Ever. What I did do was bring up my concerns to people in the house. We all talked extensively about our options, and what we can do to motivate her and fix what we currently have, and save moving out as a last resort, but still remain in her position as management. He then shares the text that Poki shares in her document. It starts out with FedMyster saying, goes into Yvonne's room. Yo, let's think of a prank/content idea since Lily'll be out. Immediately gets into a game of League. Smiley face. Poki responds with an annoyed face. Fed responds by saying, I leave and she says, hey, you gonna think of something, right? Yeah. Poki responds with a disappointed face and says, tell her what you think. Fed responds, alright, I'll do that now. Wow, I was surprised. I asked her when her game was done if she could come upstairs and brainstorm Offline TV stuff. She gave me this face. I want to keep playing. I gave her a long stare, then just walked out. I don't know. Fed then sends a picture of him behind a whiteboard and says, I'm out here whiteboarding shit. Poki responds, sad face. I'll join you when I get kicked. You should tell her it's kind of part of her job though. Fed responds, you know I hate confrontation. It's fine though. When you think about it, I don't realistically think she can contribute much, but it's nice to have a human around. Lol, I talked to Toast before the meeting, and we agreed that we should only bring up Yvonne thing if we really considered a new third roommate, but I'm kinda glad. Poki responds, oh, I didn't know. Plus it kinda came up in an okay way, I think. Fed responds, you guys segmented into that. Poki responds, my bad, yee. Fed responds, no, I'm actually glad. Poki responds, I was like, why isn't Fed bringing it up? Lol. Fed responds, haha. Yeah, it was probably better this way. To be honest, if it came from me, she would feel, I don't know, different because of our relationship. But all good. Cat's out of the bag. Poki responds, makes sense. It did come up pretty organically. I was surprised Skara had so much to say. Fed responds, I think I talked about it with Skara, the most out of everyone. Poki responds, whoa, I had no clue. Continuing with Fed's document, he says, my purpose of bringing up this information was to mention that in no way was I trying to get Yvonne fired because of the incident between us. The way Poki framed it in her original statement/stream, and it 100% had to do with her lack of excitement and willingness to help with Offline TV projects, when it's the only reason she's in the house. And if you read my original leaked statement, you'd know that that wasn't surprising to me because of how Poki would privately portray her to me, when she used to work for her as well. She continues to show more text proving that I did in fact bring up my concerns to people in the house, which again, I never denied. The incident between me and Yvonne was in December of 2018, and these showcase texts that take place during October of 2019, long after Yvonne and I talked about it, and I had naively thought we put it all behind us. Again, the whole reason I brought this up to begin with was an attempt to showcase that I had zero interest in firing her over what happened between us. And I brought up my concerns to the house because I 100% focused on making Offline TV more successful. And then once she started helping out more, those concerns were no longer relevant to me. She then brings up these texts again. They start out with FedMyster saying, yo, what you doing right now? Poki responds, hi. FedMyster responds, yo, and then Poki sends Fed some DMs she had between her and Lily Pichu. The messages start out with Poki saying, do you have 5 minutes to text chat? Lily responds, yee. Poki responds, so... Quarantine had made it very apparent that offline TV isn't really led or prioritized by anyone, I guess. And I don't mean like talent doesn't care about it, because our jobs is to be talent. Lily responds, you mean like a Chris Chan but not shitty? And to clarify to people, she's not talking about the Sonic 2 Chris Chan. She's talking about another Chris Chan that used to work for offline TV. Anyways, Poki responds to her by saying, and I know Fed is partial talent, so he's focused on streaming. Yeah, exactly. And it also made me realize, Yvonne is like 90% a content creator now. Lily responds, yee, to which Poki responds, which is great for her if that makes her happy, for real. But also, offline TV is left in the dust a little. What do you think? Lily responds, and then it cuts off there. Poki captions these DMs to Fed with basically this, to which Fed responds, wanna pull some funny shit? Poki responds, what? Oh, you're still live. Fed responds, okay, never mind, no prob. And yeah, gonna be honest, not having Amanda and Danois here has def hurt. I actually haven't talked to Amanda in almost a month, and she was supposed to be a mini-me. As for me personally, I'm not trying to take advantage of streaming every day, and it's been incredibly difficult to balance both. I don't know how long this attention on me will last, I think. Poki responds, I think you should be doing what you're doing. Fed responds, if I reconnect with Amanda. Poki responds, you are talent, and even though you help with content, talent is meant to be your priority. I am more so bothered Yvonne hasn't stepped up more. Fed responds, things could be a lot better. And that offline TV is no longer her priority. When I really thought about it, like, why did we hire Amanda? Fed responds, messy. Poki responds, when Yvonne is supposed to be Amanda, but in the house. Fed responds, yeah, I feel you on that. To be honest, I thought you were cool with her going the route when we moved. Like, she started her YouTube and everything because you and us were cool with it. I remember. I'ma just come into your room? Bump. Poki responds, hi. Fed responds, hi. Poki responds, no. Fed responds, I don't remember the exact context. Poki responds, we agreed, like, content creation was not the route, but that she likes to stream on the side, but offline TV is main thing. But now it's like sponsor deals, YouTube channel, etc. It's very weird in my opinion. Fed responds, yeah, I feel like she's definitely in a direction where she's leaning towards content creation. To be honest, we didn't make that clear though. At least I don't think we didn't, but despite that, I do agree we need fucking massive help right now. And now would have been a good moment to step up. Poki responds, I guess like, I just dislike disorganization, inefficiency, and that's what I feel. Fed responds, I hear that. Poki responds, so I think we need to get together and make some solid decisions as a group, or else the decisions will force themselves onto us down the road. For example, if we got someone to help manage, what happens to Yvonne? Isn't that a weird thought? Fed responds, yeah, true. And yeah, we'll talk about things tomorrow after meeting. You talk to Toast Skara about it? Poki responds, Toast right now. We know we want/need help, but I don't think we know about what to do in regards to Yvonne. Fed responds, yeah, I think we just need to tell her what we want. Poki responds, yeah, I'm wondering what you guys want. Fed responds, I mean, to be honest, all I think about is what I'm lacking. Haven't thought about her business too much. I'll think about it though. Poki responds, okies. Fed continues the document by saying, Poki's justification for all of this is that she was worried about offline TV being left on the back burner, and that we had a history of hiring core employees that would later become content creators. To me, these claims are all valid. But I showed these in the first place because I wanted to A, show that she was actually the one pushing the idea of her being fired, and B, that at one point I defended her because from my understanding, I thought she was doing a good job, and also getting streams in too, which I thought we were cool with, which largely contradicts that I was trying to get her fired because of the incident between us. I could have easily agreed with her and helped her carry out the Let's Get Yvonne Fired campaign, but I really didn't think there were any problems at the time. It was extremely careless for her to say on her stream many months ago that I wanted her fired because of our incident, when I only ever brought up my concerns and complaints to people, just like any leader in my position would. Re-Fed. She immediately brings up what she claims to be proof, or admission of guilt, about the Steve situation. After a tremendous amount of therapy and reflection, I want to quickly go over my state of mind throughout my confusing friendship with Poki. I'll support that although I never challenged her on things, it was never my intention to admit guilt on any front. Initially with the Steve situation, I apologized because I felt I breached her privacy. In that moment, I didn't feel like I was lying because it was common for us to say, let's be friends, and then totally act another way and then relapse. I thought throughout this incident we were just in another cycle of all that, so I didn't feel like I was lying to him. As to the psychology of it all, I didn't even bother to challenge her when she confronted me about Steve, because I've always dreaded fighting/arguing with her because I felt she had a lot of power in whatever we had, and I cared for her too much, in that most of what she said I would tend to agree with to avoid conflict, even until the bitter end. I now know this was one of my issues, the fear of confrontation, and I should have talked things out more. But at the time and in that moment, it was so much easier to just say, sure, whatever, I'm sorry, than to have an argument over how we are leading each other on. I would assume many people can relate to this. What I've learned throughout all of this though, is that oftentimes the hardest conversations are usually the ones worth having. The fear of confrontation and in complete agreement with whatever your accuser says because of how terrified you are of conflict and how much you want to maintain peace. This kind of mentality would continue even before she did her initial stream 5 months ago, when she would ask me what I had not liked mentioned. I said, if you could find it in you to leave out telling Josh/Steve that you and we were a thing, it's something I would just not like mentioned. I sent these texts during a time when my whole world was being flipped, from literally every direction. And once again, I felt and believed what everyone was pinning on me was true. In my head, I knew some of the things she mentioned weren't right, but I knew suddenly trying to convince her that it happened a lot differently, she probably wouldn't buy. To elaborate, I felt it was an argument I was in no position to have have because A, I wasn't mentally equipped to have it, and B, I knew she wouldn't buy my sudden change of opinion. I apologize if this is hard to follow, but this issue is something I'm much more aware of now, and I'm still trying to learn from and understand it better. Even in my conversation with Janet, I felt like I was still heavily influenced by Poki. I believed whatever claim she had against me. It was a very stressful time. It was so much easier to just accept whatever claim against me and move on, rather than argue any point at any stage. We then get another dissection of the Vegas text between Poki and Fed, but this time from Fed's perspective. When Poki says, "Okay, so we got a hotel, but I can still stay in yours," Fed points to the I and says, "She very clearly says, but I can stay in yours." To me, this meant she was open to staying with me, and the girls would get Poki's room, because during this time, I would sleep over hers often. Then going down to the text where Poki says, "Beg for me to stay with you," he points out that she alone is asking to stay with me alone, and says, totally exploiting my feelings for her, because she knows I want her to stay with me. He then points to the text where Poki says, I joke. KK, I'll come if you're sure." And then he points out that she says I'll and not we. He then points out that there was never a text asking him to stay with them, or that they could stay with him. He also says, "I was totally getting the impression that we were gonna sleep in the same room via these texts. What ended up happening is that we all stayed in mine, but Poki and I ended up sharing a bed, but she's careful not to include that in her response. My purpose of showing these texts was to show the behavior and kind of relationship we had, and that we would often sleep over in/out of the house. Poki tries really hard to put into question my credibility by saying it was totally out of context, because what was said versus what happened was different. Facts are we did share a bed. Did I think it was gonna be just her and I sharing a room? Yes. Why? Because sleeping over with her wasn't uncommon at the house. She later in her statement tries to imply that my sleepover with her and other people in the house had the same tone, when in reality the ones with others weren't romantic, but the ones with her were. Look at her other texts that take place 6 days later, that she chooses to ignore in her most recent statement. He then shows the text between them that takes place 6 days after the Vegas sleepover. It starts out with Fed saying, "Just chillin' if you wanna hang. Sorry to bother." Poki responds, "You're fine. I'm so tired." Fed responds, "Okay." Poki responds with a pouty face and says, "What you doing? What is chillin'?" Fed responds, "You'll know, laying in bed. Could you sleep over?" Poki responds, "In your bed?" Laughing my ass off, look at us. Out here living in the same house talking about sleepovers. Fed responds, "Haha, yeah." Poki responds, "Dunno about your bed though." Fed responds, "Okay, fine, yours." Fed responds, I know. Can you hurry up? I want to cuddle, Angry emoji. Poki responds, "Lol, far from done." Fed responds, "Okay, just let me know." Poki responds, "Yeet." Fed responds, "You really weren't joking." Poki responds, "Just finished, ZZZ." He responds, "Can I comes in?" Poki responds, "Yeet." And then he adds context below saying, "Waiting for her to finish her League of Legends game so I can sleep over." She tries to debunk a singular screenshot by explicitly providing context to it. She tries to frame this in a way that makes it seem like I purposefully withheld proper context. But a lot of the facts still remain, and she continues to ignore the second sleepover DM from December 12th, 2018, which further reinforces that sleepovers were a regular thing, which was my entire argument. As detailed in the image, I explained that, to me, she alone is very clearly asking to stay at my hotel room. We were not exclusives, so she uses phrases like, "I want to give you the freedom to do what you want." I thought she was just testing me here, to see if I was seeing/interested in anyone while in Vegas that weekend. I was quick to respond, and then she hits me with the "beg for me to stay with you," which I interpreted as teasing, because she knows how much I would want her to stay with me. So the impression I got from these texts, as I'm sure many of you do, is that she alone is going to stay in my room with me. This is what was supposed to happen, but didn't. Instead, the girls decided to all stay in my room. And 6 days later, I waited for her to finish her League of Legends game before I came to sleep over at hers, instead of mine. So these screenshots in conjunction say a lot more. Just to be clear, the only reason I'm responding to this is because she tries to put into question my credibility and further pushes the narrative of manipulation. There were a lot of screenshots I hadn't got to explain because I had stopped working on the original doc and didn't want it out. I should also point out that Poki said in her stream and in her statement that she told me way back in March 2018 that she just wanted to be friends, which is true, but my whole point in the leaked doc was to show the on-again, off-again cycle. This text happened in December 2018. Re Jody. Before I get into anything, I'd like to apologize to Jody. for painting her to Yvonne in such a poor light. Two of my closest friends felt she was using me for views, and ignoring one of them during our Minecraft streams. When I was told this, I was very fired up when I heard my friend had felt isolated, and that the possibility of her exploiting my attention was real. Without really thinking about the validity of such claims, I shared gossip between me and Poki. I do want to give more context and explain my thought process while writing this document back in August. He then shows a set of texts between him and Pokimane that happened 2 days before they talked about Jody. The first one starts out with Fed showing a picture of her cat, and Pokimane responds, "My moo-moo!" To which Fed responds, "She goes meow, 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 meow." She's so sweet. Pokimane responds, hee heart. Poki responds, "What are we doing tonight?" To which Fed responds, "I'm not sure, to be honest. Been thinking about it for a minute too. I'm watching Kingdom Hearts 1-2 like streams. Super grindy vibe. Don't really like that." Poki responds, "I thought you love grinding." Fed responds, "I mean that kind of grind, that's ZZZZZ. I'll prop random IRL then go wherever the wind blows. What about you?" Poki responds, "Okay honey, eating and chillin'." Fed responds, "I have some requesterinos." Poki responds, "Yes dear." Fed responds, "If you see Dak Prescott, please get a pic of you two. That'll be my background forever. He's the Cowboys quarterback." Fed then shows the text him and Poki had, talking about Jody. It starts out with Pokimane saying, "Also, let me know how your date with Jody goes." Fed responds, "Geez, this year has been unreal for you." Haha, not going on any date with her, lol. Poki responds, "Oh, stop. You'd be down if she was in town. Just let me know how it goes. I like the stories." Fed responds, "Okay, sure, we'll let you know." Poki responds, "I like the honesty." Fed responds, "No, but for real, not remotely interested in her. In all honesty. Me, Leslie, and Yvonne talked about this. I feel hella exploited. And when we hang out in, let's say, Minecraft, she ignores Leslie and all the girls. Big yikes." Poki responds, "Huh? That doesn't sound normal. Isn't she really close with Leslie?" Fed responds, "You can really tell she's trying to push the Fody thing, poop emoji. And according to Leslie, not no note." And then he corrects it to more. I don't know which part of the message is corrected to more, but regardless, the conversation continues by Fed saying, "Lots of bad drama." Poki responds, "What?" Fed responds, "So like," Poki says, "What kind of drama?" And then all of the drama is redacted. Poki responds, "Aw," followed by more redacted messages, and then she says, "Maybe she's not the most considerate person. But also, you saying shit like, let's talk about going on a date, if that's not really how you feel, is a bit hypocritical because of course, that pushes the Fody thing." Fed responds, "Then with the Minecraft stuff, Leslie refuses to play with her now. We all think trying to push the Fody thing for views, and it's so obvious when we are all hanging out, and she's memeing crazy tongue out emojis, and everyone else feels hella left out." Poki then responds, but most of the messages are cut out. Fed responds by saying, "Yeah." Poki responds, "But I guess long term it'll show that they aren't friends anymore." Wow, 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 my brain boom. Fed responds, "It's pretty bad. Had a group call with blank about it all. Must protect my friend's feelings. I think I'm forgetting other stuff she did too. What time yo thing today, by the way?" Poki responds, 4 to 6 I believe, and I feel ya. I never would have guessed. Fed then shows a text where Pokimane was talking bad about Jody to Fed. It starts out with Poki saying, "Jody on stream right now talking about you. Makes me wanna..." Fed responds, "Yeah, just told my stream to stop talking about her." Poki responds, "She's drunk, but acting way drunker than she actually is." And saying shit like, "Oh my god, you guys, Fed wasn't on my stream today, but you guys are still watching. That means so much to me." Ruffle! I don't know, it sounds so fakey. She's using like this baby voice. Hearing that criticism come from Pokimane is just interesting. But regardless, she continues by saying, "Yikes, yikes," sounding like this emoji. I don't know, I can't stand people obviously acting more drunk than they are, or saying fake pity shit to chat. Makes me gag. Anyways, that's my event of the day, love. You have a good stream, lol. Sorry for spam while you're streaming, lols. Tongue out emoji. I legit tuned in for not even 3 minutes, and she spoke about you twice. I was like, gotta go, bye. FedMyster elaborates on this in his document by saying, "From the previous text, you know me and Poki were having occasional sleepovers in mid-December. These above texts happened in January. On stream, Jody was jokingly trying to set up a date. Poki was watching my stream, and then later texted me, 'Let me know how your date with Jody goes.'" Fed then shows that clip from Jody's stream.
You wanna go on a date?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, I didn't hear that.
You wanna go on a date?
Did you say... Wait, can you say it slower?
Do you want to go on a date?
I mean, you're not here, so we can't.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Alright, well, when you're here, let's talk about it.
Guys, please stop talking about Jody. I'm playing a game. I just want a good chat experience. No more shipping. Please.
Continuing with the document, he says, now that we have the additional context, that I feel like she's still keeping me interested, with her use of words in conjunction with the text she provided, we get a better picture. When I see her try and tease or test me like she has in the past, it makes me feel like when she's bad-mouthing the girl in front of me, she's to some extent being possessive. That was my original argument. When she suggested the idea that we should go on a date, I tried to act like I was annoyed that she would even say that, when she knows damn well I only care about her. As we've seen on previous pages, her teasing me when we're in this non-exclusive unknown state makes me feel like she's to some degree testing me. That's how I interpreted it. With her added perspective, I can see now that she might have been just parroting what I was saying. You can choose who to believe, but with the larger context at hand, I stand by how I felt. And I see it now, which was that she was teasing/testing me, intended or not, and then ultimately to me being possessive. I'd like to reiterate, when I wrote this document, it was initially for therapy as a suggestion by friends. So I was writing how I felt, and I felt in this moment she was being possessive, because she has a history of teasing/testing me about other girls, regardless of what I had said about Jody earlier in the texts. Ultimately, I don't think the added context from her changes much because we were still in a weird spot based on how we were talking to each other, and when she texted that to me, I felt she was being somewhat possessive by teasing me about dating Jody, and then talking about her the way she did to me in the texts. Poki likes to point out the time she told me she just wanted to be friends. This happened a few times. I would eventually accept this and start to see and meet other girls, hang out with them outside of offline TV, and then inevitably always return to her grasps when she showed me signs of hope. Looking back now, we definitely could have been more honest and aware of our behavior around each other. That could have prevented a lot of internal conflict between us. Conclusion. In closing, I want to once and for all end all this. Both of us can keep digging into messy private DMs, but the whole point was to show it wasn't as black and white as Poki originally showed. It should be obvious by now, but both have completely different interpretations as to what happened in our past. And as we both said, the truth is somewhere in between. I know nothing said here or anywhere absolves me of my wrongdoings, but that was never the point. Rather, when I wrote this, I felt completely betrayed and wanted to gather my thoughts/information to understand her and my issues better. Again, I have never disputed any claims made by Yvonne or Lily. I know I crossed boundaries and disappointed a lot of people, but I know I'm working every day to become the best possible version of myself. I never had any intentions of this being public, and I very much regret that it was leaked. I want to move on and start a new chapter in my life. The time I spent on offline TV was some of the best parts of my life, and I'm thankful for every moment, but it's time to leave that all behind. This will be my last statement I make on this matter. Think of me what you want, but judge me on facts, and not careless renditions of my character with things I know to be false. At the end of the day, it's very clear to me and everyone that has read all this unnecessary drama, that both Poki and I have made mistakes. I feel we have both learned from our mistakes and grow as people. I wish nothing but the best for all involved, but it's time to move forward. I hope you all can too. Fed. And then Poki responds to this on Twitter by saying, "Who asked, lol?" Well, I guess that's one way to end this cycle of endless responses. Not gonna lie, I think that tweet from Poki was pretty funny. But anyways, if you watched this far, I'd like to personally thank you so much for watching. This was a very long video, so the fact that you stuck through it all means a lot to me. Anyways, now that you've been fully informed on the situation, I would love to hear your opinion on this in the comment section below. And I'd also like to thank my channel members for supporting the channel, in particular Scrubby, who's donated $100 a month. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video.